Good evening. Welcome to the Municipality of South Dundas's council meeting for Wednesday, May 28th, 2025. Welcome members of the audience, council team and staff. We'll get the meeting started with call the meeting to order. I have a resolution that the May 28th council meeting of the Municipality of South Dundas be opened at 6 p.m. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Confirmation of agenda. Any additions, deletion, amendments of the agenda? Seeing none, I have a motion. Let it resolve that the Council Municipality of South Dundas approve the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Vino, seconded by Councillor Smith. All in favor? Carried. Number 4, disclosure of pecuniary interests and general nature thereof. Councillor Vino.
10,
You gave me back the forms.
Yep, 10 D,
Yes, sir.
and then it was
7B.
7 B, involved, the positive discussion portion.
Very good. Sorry.
Yeah, so that was 7B, Morseburg Plaza discussion, and 10D, road allowance for Haynes Road.
Very good. And I'll disclose pecuniary interest on 7B as well. Mooresburg and Iroquois plazas. Any others? Seeing none, we'll move to adoption of minutes. Any errors or omissions from the regular meeting of May 14th and the special public meeting of May 20th? Seeing none, I have a motion. Let it resolve that the following meeting minutes be adopted as presented. May 14th, regular council meeting. May 20th, special public meeting on development charges. Moved by Councillor Vino, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. Okay, so we'll move to 6A, meeting to consider. So Saddlemar Drain Assessment Update, and we have Monica Shade here from the Shade Group. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So good evening, and thank you for your attendance at this meeting to consider for the Saddlemar Drain. My name is Monica Shade, and I'm a professional engineer with Shade Group, Inc. I was appointed by the Municipality of South Dundas to prepare an engineer's report under Section 76 of the Drainage Act, which is an update to a schedule of assessment to allow for maintenance of a previously adopted Drainage Act project. So my presentation will include an introduction on the reason for this meeting, a very brief history of the existing drainage system, the reason this process was initiated, a summary of my engineer's report, and an overview of what the next steps will be in the process of adopting the new report. This meeting is to formally present the engineer's report and allow members of council as well as landowners an opportunity to provide input and ask questions before provisionally adopting the report. Following the discussion, council will decide if the project should proceed or if there's any reason that the report should be sent back for further revisions. Assuming the decision is to proceed, the report would be provisionally adopted by 2 readings of bylaw. The notification that went out inviting you to attend this meeting included a link to where the engineer's report that is being presented could be found. The letter also offered that if a landowner preferred a paper copy, the township could provide this to you upon request. So there are 2 governing engineers' reports for the Saddlemar Drain, one from 1956 and one from 1985. The 1956 engineers' report was authored by L.P. Stidwell and described the total length as approximately 9.7 kilometers, affecting a total drainage area of approximately 4,800 acres. The 1982 report was authored by Stidwell and Associates and was created to extend the drain further upstream, resulting in the Saddlemar Drain having a total length of approximately 12 kilometers, while both reports describe the outlet of the drain as being Flag Creek. So I acknowledge this is not a great map, but a proper version of the map is available within the engineer's report. So this is just intended to provide a quick overview of the drain. The pink line represents the watershed boundary, and the blue line through the middle that kind of goes diagonal is the Saddlemar Drain. All of those lands encompassed within the watershed boundary directly or indirectly drain into the Saddlemire Drain. Shown in orange are just a few of the neighboring municipal drains or natural watercourses, including the Glen Becker Drain, Zeron Drain, Reuben Matthijs Drain, Van Morsel Drain, and the Donald Haynes Drain, just to name a few. The Zeron Drain outlets to the Saddlemire Drain, so landowners may be assessed into both projects. No updates have been made to the Zeron Drain under the report that we're discussing this evening. The watershed boundary that we've shown in pink has been reviewed against a number of adjacent municipal drains that were recently updated to correct for any overlap that there may have been in boundaries under previous prepared reports. The upstream limits of the Saddlemire Drain are located just north of Whitaker Road, and the drain crosses County Road 31, Strader Road, Zeron Road, Highway 401, Flag Road, and the CN Railway before outletting to Flag Creek approximately 12 kilometers downstream of its starting point. So this Drainage Act process was initiated by the township as the previous governing assessment schedules were out of date and requests for maintenance have been filed for this drain. Maintenance is planned for the Saddlemire Drain either later this year or potentially into next year, and the updated assessment schedule is needed to assess out the maintenance costs associated with that work. This updated report allows for fair division of costs associated with that work. This updated report allows for fair division of costs across all of those within the watershed, including lands that have been severed since the previous adopted report. If you do have specific questions about the planned maintenance, Chris St. Thomas, the township's drainage superintendent, has performed a review of the drain and is in the process of compiling a maintenance plan. Township staff mailed invitations to landowners within the watershed for an on-site meeting per the Drainage Act, and it was held here at in this room on February 25th, 2025. Approximately 7 landowners attended that meeting, with another landowner having submitted questions via email in advance of the meeting. No further concerns or questions have been raised with Shade Group since the initial on-site meeting. At the meeting, attendees shared input on current land use, past maintenance activities, and concerns about the drain's performance. A concern raised was flow bottlenecks, particularly where the drain crosses the railway and Highway 401. It was suggested that a full cleanout or maintenance be tried first to improve flow before considering a major improvement, given that there would be considerable engineering costs associated with undertaking a major improvement project. A copy of the preliminary watershed boundary was presented at the on-site meeting for landowners to review and comment on, though no concerns were raised regarding the delineated boundary. So the scope of work covered in the engineer's report was limited to updating the schedule of assessment to allow for fair billings of maintenance costs. Assessments have been calculated using the factored areas method. The factored area method refers to 3 different categories for determining assessments. One is land use, another distance from the drain, and location within the watershed. Land use factors are assigned using aerial imagery, digital mapping, and other supported documentation from the county's geographic information system or provincially available information. Lands used for commercial use would be assigned a higher factor than farmlands, whereas properties with provincially significant wetland or managed forest would be assigned a lower factor than farmland. Delineation of provincially significant wetlands is derived from provincial mapping data. The offset factor, or the distance from the drain, considers where lands are relative to the drain, so whether they're directly adjacent the drain or further away. Lands that drain into a tributary or a roadside ditch on the outer boundary of a watershed would be assigned a lower factor than those lands which are directly beside the drain. And then finally, the distance factor considers where in the watershed the lands are located and where those lands would be expected to drain into the applicable drainage channel. Lands at the upper limit of the watershed make use of the entire length of the drain to achieve their legal and sufficient outlet and are therefore assigned a higher factor than those near the downstream limits of the drain. Properties were also assigned outlet or benefit liability. Outlet liability is assigned to all properties and is the cost associated with having a legal outlet for runoff from the lands. Benefit liability is generally only assigned to those directly abutting the drain and assigns an additional assessment as the presence of the drain is seen as having a benefit to those lands. The presence on those, of the drain on those lands would generally be considered to provide an increase in land value to those properties compared to the drain not being there. So the summation of the outlet and benefit assessments is then used to determine the relative apportionment of costs assigned to each property, and the same ratio of those costs would then be assigned to future maintenance works. So we did prepare an initial construction cost estimate based on typical maintenance practices, and I assumed at the time a full drain cleanout. But based on recent discussions with the township's drainage superintendent, actual costs are expected to be a bit lower. As I understand, a full cleanout is not anticipated to be necessary based on recent observed conditions. Ultimately, the scope of maintenance will be determined by the drainage superintendent, however, and again, if you do have specific questions or concerns regarding the extent of maintenance, best to speak with Chris. So upon completion of my presentation, members of council and landowners will be given an opportunity to ask questions. Following the question and answer period, council will decide if the project will proceed or if the report should be sent back for edits or additions. Assuming the project proceeds and no changes are requested, the report is expected to be provisionally adopted by two readings of bylaw. The bylaw would then be mailed out to all of those within the watershed, including an invitation to the Court of Revision. So the Court of Revision is the first of 3 opportunities for appeals in a Drainage Act project. Each appeals body hears different types of appeals. The Court of Revision is held locally and allows landowners an opportunity to submit appeals with respect to their assessment. Tribunal would hear appeals regarding technical aspects of the project, while the referee would hear appeals on legal considerations of the project. Tribunal hearings and referee appeals are only scheduled if needed, whereas a minimum of 1 sitting of the Court of Revision will be scheduled regardless. If you are thinking that you would like to appeal, please ensure that the appropriate paperwork is submitted to the clerk within the appropriate timelines. Appeals for assessments must be submitted in writing no later than 10 days before the first scheduled sitting of the Court of Revision. If you do have concerns or questions about the project that you wish to discuss privately, myself or the drainage superintendent are available to discuss and answer questions. As appeals can add significant cost to a project, we are always looking to address as many questions or concerns as we can before going down that route. So that concludes my presentation, and I'll pass it back to council. Again, if you do have specific questions about your property, such as how your assessment was specifically calculated, I'm also happy to arrange for a private phone call.
Very good. Thanks, Ms. Shea.
Thank you.
Is there any landowners here this evening who would like to provide input, ask any questions? Yes, sir. Just come forward and state your name and your address.
My name is Peter Brunt. I live at 4825 Whitaker Road, at the upper end of the drain. My only question is about the repair or replacement of culverts during the, is that already calculated into the assessment, or is that potentially be added on afterwards?
What kind of culverts are you referring to? Road crossing or like a farm crossing?
Farm crossings.
So if there's specific farm crossings, I wouldn't have had that information at this point, so that wouldn't have been factored into my calculation. But that's something that if there's a farm crossing that needs to be replaced, that's a discussion with Chris. And it wouldn't, like, again, based on the maintenance plan that him and I have discussed, it's going to be considerably less than what's already estimated, like in the report. So adding in having to replace a culvert, it wouldn't be that big of a deal.
So are all culverts going to be removed and reconfigured?
Generally, we don't replace every culvert unless it's end
Sorry,
of
it's
life.
me, Mr. Mayor. The maintenance at the top portion where you live, or the inspection has not been completed yet. If you are concerned with some, reach out to me and we can inspect them, and the rest of them we'll inspect as we go to decide if they need to be replaced or not.
All right. Second question, if I may.
Yes, sir.
The benefit portion of the assessment,
Yep.
is at the discretion of the engineer, according to the report?
Ultimately, yes, there's no written in stone way to calculate benefit assessments. So I can outline how we come to
I
those
would
calculations
appreciate
if you'd
that,
like.
How it was proportioned.
Yep, so when we do, so first of all, you have the split of outlet assessments and benefit assessments. So let's say the total was $100,000. If it was a 50-50 split, it would be 50% of that is assigned to outlet, and then we split that up, and 50% of that is assigned to benefit. So typically, unless there's been major changes to the watershed, we use the same outlet and benefit split that was used in the previous reports. The thought process being, unless something's drastically changed, if it worked before, why would I reinvent the wheel? So then I have this pot of money that I need to split across anybody who's running along the drain. So generally we take an offset from that. I'd have to look into our calculations of what exactly that number was, but let's say it was 100 meters or 300 feet, I would do an offset, and then everybody's lands that are within that offset calculation, that's what I would use to split up everybody's benefit assessment, factoring in, again, land use. So if you're a PSW, for example, that's gonna, again, be factored into your 100 acres gets chopped down to 50 acres.
All right, so I'll,
Chris?
later on, we'll get together. Appreciate the input. Appreciate
Yes, very good.
the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Brunt.
Thank you.
And Chris St. John has the follow-up for that on the culverts, so thank you very much. Any other comments, questions from council team? Councillor Smith?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad. The question I had was about the CN rail portion. Are the rail lines continuing to not pay their bills moving for, this has been going on for a few years. Is there any updates on that?
Chris, how good's your memory from our last meeting? From what I recall, I thought even they've gotten decisions on there's 2 or 3 lawsuits in process from what I recall down in southwestern Ontario. I believe they reached a consensus on one of them, but they agreed to split costs, but it wasn't following a Drainage Act process. They went to some other act to.
It was a very odd split. It was drains that were either on CN land, they decided to pay 50-50 with the municipality.
That's what it was.
And
yeah.
drains that were not on municipal land, they decided to pay nothing, or vice versa. But it's nothing to do with the assessment schedules. So that whole situation is not settled yet.
Yeah, okay. I was just curious because if you just scroll down through like the outlet plus the benefit, like we don't know exactly what the number is going to be,
Yeah.
but just on the figures that are on here,
Yeah.
like the number is $555. So it's not going to be that high.
I was gonna say, honestly, with what Chris had described to me over the phone a couple weeks ago, like don't hold me to it, but like half that
Yeah.
seems much more
Yeah.
reasonable. So then you're at like, what, $250 that you're
So,
fighting over?
Yeah, so, but I was just, so do we end up picking up that $250 portion of that? Or does that go back into the entire drain and get split up and everybody has to pay a portion of that?
If it's not being paid for by CN Rail, the only other person that can pick up that bill is the municipality. So if it was my unsolicited advice, I would still be assessing it to CN Rail, but understand where you're gonna draw the line on actually chasing that money.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Ms. Shade. Very
Perfect.
good.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to 7, Committee of the Whole. So I have a motion, let it resolve that the Council of the Corporation of Mississauga South Dundas hereby resolve into Committee of the Whole for the purpose of discussing matters less formal deliberation at 6:19 PM. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll start with 7A, proposed level of service recommendations. Mr. Nelson, welcome, Tyler. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The next deadline under Ontario Regulation 588-17 requires municipalities to propose levels of service and create a 10-year capital plan. Then every year, the municipality will conduct an annual review of asset management progress. So this asset management plan will be a living document. Therefore, any level of service options and funding targets that we decide to propose can be modified and updated in the future. So you've been provided with a report including staff recommended proposed levels of service for review. Unless directed otherwise, we will use the proposed levels of service recommended by staff when creating our 10-year capital strategic plan. If you have any comments on these proposed levels of service recommendations or would prefer to propose a different option that is not recommended in the report, we will use those recommendations when creating the official level of service and 10-year capital plan.
Any further comments at this point, Mr. Nelson, or do we want to go through each segment? Or does council want to discuss the segments? Very good. We'll just go through each one, Mr. Nelson. Appreciate it. Thank you.
However you guys would like to go through it.
Just, yeah, we'll go through each segment and confirm your current findings.
So we can start with road network then. So the first level of service option, kilometers of municipal sidewalks. We're proposing to reduce from 32 kilometers to 27 kilometers. This would mean we would remove sidewalks on both sides of the road if the road has two sidewalks.
Councilor Ward?
Yeah, I just have a quick question here. So does that include the sidewalks at the plaza, or is it is it under facilities? Just for my own knowledge.
So I have not included the plaza
Okay,
in that
perfect, thank you.
calculation.
And Mayor, I'm in favor of what's recommended for the sidewalks.
Very good. Yep. I know a few of these items we've discussed before, but I think it's worthwhile to make sure as we're going to be submitting this report. And if there's any follow-up questions or comments, I'll just, Tyler, you can just go through each segment. If we have a question at the time, we'll just jump in if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, well then I'll move on to the next one. So number 2 would be the number of years since the last road needs study. Currently, we don't have a scheduled timeline. The last one we completed was in 2019. So we're recommending to complete road needs studies every 2 years.
Deputy Mayor?
And that's rural and village streets? All
Yes,
streets?
All roads are included in this
All
study.
roads. Very good. Councilor Smith?
Yeah, just on that, the roads need study, 2 years, every other year seems very frequent, excessive. Is 2 years needed? Could it be stretched out to 3 or 4, or maybe 5's too long? I don't know. Maybe Mr. Dahan has
Or
an
Director,
opinion on that one.
Director Hyman could start, or we do have 2 roads experts here, so.
Since if we're waiting for the mic over there, I can, 2 years isn't a bad thing. I would suggest no more than 4 years. I think that's like that you start to get long in the tooth after 4 years in terms of seeing deterioration. If council is interested in, maybe what I would suggest is that once every 4 years is very a very comprehensive type of road need study, but then after 2 years, you're kind of just checking in to make sure that the findings haven't changed. And the nice thing about 2 years is actually you can offset it from your biennial OSIM inspection. So you just kind of keep that type of infrastructure and asset management inspection type of service taking place every year, because you do bridges 1 year, then you're checking your roads, you do bridges, maybe do a more detailed one. So that would be my comments, but I would defer to the director if Jeff sees it a little bit different than that.
So through your Mayor Broad, so the last one was in 2019, so we're definitely greater than 2 years. But exactly to CAO and Dahan's point, by every 2 years, we're mimicking the OSM reporting. So it just keeps that, I don't want to say a vicious cycle, but it just keeps that cycle moving so that we can truly capture the condition of our roadway as well as the condition of our bridges at the same time. So that's where the 2 years came into play.
I would say certainly Canadian winters and salt, play havoc faster on roads than other municipalities may have. So understand your point. Yep, Councilor Vino.
Do you have any ballpark cost, what that costs like every 2 years to do it? Like I suspect if the 4 years is more comprehensive, is it double the cost to do one of these studies in the 4 years? And is it the same price if you do it 2 to 4?
So this year, service being provided by SD&G, it's going to be $0 for us to get a road needs study. I would, again, kind of suggest if we do a little bit more of a comprehensive one, and then 2 years down the road, that could be done internally through our own, I'm sorry, I'm committing us to some resources that we may have some challenges to meet, but I would actually suggest that from a budgetary perspective, we will see some pretty reasonable cost for this road needs study work.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. Yeah, I kind of visualize that as well. It's more of a, every 2 years, it's a drive-by to see internally that we don't have to go out and get consultants and other experts that wouldn't give us any other value than what our own staff could do. So I'm kind of with you on that, Cole.
Yeah, I think we certainly want to keep taking advantage of our in-house expertise and then our county expertise as well, right, to help us in that, so. Yep, okay. Very good. Mr. Nelson?
Okay, I can move on to the next one then. So this one's condition related for paved roads in the municipality. We're recommending targeting an average pavement condition index value of 60 or higher. Currently, we're at 58.7, so it would really be maintaining where we're at or improving.
Yep, very good.
Okay, moving on, we have a life cycle strategy option for road resurfacing. So as discussed in previous meetings, we're recommending asphalt resurfacing for all roads, where each road will receive a 1-inch layer of asphalt every 15 years, twice, and then the replacement will involve a 2-inch depth asphalt layer, as opposed to a combination of asphalt treatment and double surface treatment. As discussed in the previous meeting, the cost savings would be significant.
Yep, very good.
Okay, moving on to bridges and culverts. Our first option, or level of service option, is the percentage of bridges in the municipality with loading or dimensional restrictions. We're currently at 14%. We're recommending maintaining 15% or lower. Okay, then on to number 2, the number of municipal bridges. We're currently at 12. This report is recommending reducing the number from 12 to 11 by decommissioning South Branch Road Bridge at its anticipated replacement date in 2031, rather than replacing it.
Very good. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. And I might as well just dive in right to this one. And I look at this report, it's a live document, right? So when this bridge is due for replacement, it really is going to come down to the council of the day to make that final decision. This is really just a guide of potential savings, so I just want to make sure that's clear, because I think there's some sentiment out there, a notion out there that we're making a final decision that's carved in stone until you have to do this whole report again. So it is a live document, and things may change. So I just want to make sure that message is very clear.
Definitely. Thank you for mentioning that. Yes, so in 2031, when the bridge comes due, we can make that decision again. And if we decide next year that we want to change this level of service, we can. This proposed level of service, we can do that.
Yeah, and just to, it's the same with the bridges we've dealt with at the county level, increment, you know, it says a date on there, but it may be 2-3 years down the road as well. It's not like a deadline date of 2031 either. If the bridge is inspected and it can get more life cycle out of it, we'll just continue using it until such time it needs to be absolutely replaced, right? Okay.
Yes, I'd say that we're leaving it out of the plan for financial, reasons, but at the point of the closure of that bridge will be the council of the day, a prelude to that. We'll make that fun. Yeah, thank you very much. Councilor Vino?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify on that too. So we're leaving this, so this document does govern what we put away annually for the capital costs.
Right.
So so the council of the day
They
may
can choose
have
to
to
spend
fund
the
it
money.
somewhere.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
got you.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on. So on to buildings and facilities. We're recommending a number of municipal garages to combine into one centralized facility at their replacement rather than maintaining 3 separate garages. There would be minimal change to the replacement costs
Yep.
expected. Okay, on to number of municipal recreation halls. We have a few options here. We're recommending to reduce the number from 5 to 3 at their replacement.
Yeah, one thing that, comment on that, certainly as we continue, I know we work with, volunteer groups and they have, current leases or opportunities to use those halls. So I think when we've talked to a few of those groups that may wish to take those on, those buildings at a future consideration. But I think that, thinking about, overall, if we're to, if we had 0 rec halls, we would have build 3 nice new ones strategically located, right? That would be the point. But as we go along, there's opportunities for each of those groups to continue to use those buildings if they so choose to help fund and repair as they become expired. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Broad. So yeah, that's where I was just kind of wondering here out loud is if let's say, I'm just gonna use building A is slated at the end of the life cycle, maybe we're not replacing it, but if building A needs a roof, in the meantime, are we still gonna be replacing the roof on building A?
Yes, so this proposed level of service will only take effect when the building needs to be replaced.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that clarification. Thank you.
Yeah, so standard maintenance upkeep would continue until the date they're set, which could be many years down the road.
Well,
Or not, right?
and you're right, and that's always been my point of the many discussions we've had about our water and wastewater facilities. As long as we keep maintaining the structure, yes, there may be a value that in our asset management plan for replacement, but in my reality, that building should last a whole heck of a lot longer than our asset management plan is. So,
Right.
so as long as we just
understood.
continuously maintain our buildings, or the ones we want to maintain, then we should be good. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Nelson?
Thank you. I'll keep moving. So moving on to storm sewer network, there's only one here, and it's related to the percentage of properties in the municipality resilient to a 100-year storm. Currently, we have no reliable data available. This is a level of service metric that's set out in the regulation, the Ontario Regulation 588-17. So our 2 options are to maintain the current storm network, which is recommended. And option 2 would be to improve the storm network so that 100% of properties are resilient to a 100-year storm. This option would require further research studies. No comments?
Councilor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. So I think I was the one who kind of brought this up, and watching the meeting back, when I read this report, I kind of think I may have confused staff a little bit. What I was more looking for is like what the condition of that storm sewer network is, and has it been cameraed to identify each section of storm? That's kind of what I was more, to determine if it can even handle the 5-year, I guess is what I was kind of.
Okay, so the last time that the storm network was cameraed was in 2017.
Okay, so,
So fairly recent.
okay.
However, I could add a condition-related level of service metric if you'd be interested. Average condition rating.
I personally think that it would be interesting to see if it would camera it in a similar life cycle as the sewer, like the sanitary sewer, on the same kind of scheduling. And I'm not sure what that is, but that would be it's kind of the same infrastructure, so that would be my perspective, but.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. Yeah, I 100% support that, and maybe we got to look at it similar to our sanitary sewer as well. Maybe we got to throw some flow, I don't know, throw flow monitoring devices in once in a while to see what the capacity of the sewer is versus the flow rates. I think that is worth noting. If CCTVing and lining is good, but ensuring that we still have capacity. And if we don't, then we may have to look at options of overflow or different areas of to handle that additional flow. So we may want to just put in some cost in that just to protect our infrastructure that way.
For sure, I'll take a note of that and we'll discuss it. With
Yeah, and
Rick.
of course, and then any new infrastructure, we insist that we regulate those flows to make sure we don't go over capacity. Yeah, very good.
Okay, so I'll move on. So we do have a level of service option list for square meters of municipal parking lots. However, this is directly tied to our decision on the recreation facilities. So we'll choose the option there that matches the decision made earlier.
Yep, Councilor Wood? Yep.
Machinery one,
Oh,
sorry.
okay, yep, machinery and equipment. I think,
So the recommendations for machinery and equipment are condition related, and they are to maintain or improve current condition.
Councilor Wood?
That just means we're gonna maintain them better. I just don't know what that means, sorry. If you could just elaborate on what that would entail.
So every year during our annual asset management review, we'll have an updated number, and we'll just be comparing it to the recommended percentage.
Oh, okay.
So if we're low, we may have to look into other options and maybe funding more, or we just would have to address it if we're too low.
Okay, thank you.
So it just sets a number for us in the future. So we'll move on to fleet. So this plan, a level of service option would be to include a ladder truck for asset management purposes. We're recommending to increase to 1 rather than maintaining at 0.
Councilor Vito?
Through you, Mayor, I see, like, I know it's with our fire underwriter survey and the, regulatory environment, and I see one day, we've talked the ladder truck up 6 ways to Sunday. Whenever it comes to this document, though, we've talked about looking into other municipalities to help, say we own the ladder truck itself, but we had reciprocal agreements with them. Does that can those figures be factored into these documents, or do we just have to keep that completely separate, what we would potentially get for revenue from owning said ladder truck?
So if we decide to go through with the ladder truck, then it's in the plan. However, if we decide in the future to not go through with it, then we can just update the capital plan without it included.
I guess the question is, if we were to have a shared agreement with other municipalities, where would the revenues go? Would our revenues from that shared agreement go against the asset management plan, or would they go to general funds? Right? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, my question, I guess, is, so it shows here that, the approximate cost of one would be $400,000, and $20,000 a year is what we would be required on the asset management plan. Would that $20,000 a year be able to be reduced in the plan if we factor in shared services? But are we able to factor that in to this plan?
Treasurer Stewart.
Through you, Mayor. Yes, we would factor that amount into this plan, and it would be considered, so it would reduce what is required in our reserves to, I guess, to replace in the future, or to purchase.
Right.
Well, I guess it would be to replace in the future, because we'd have to buy it first, and then, and you receive the revenue from other municipalities. So yes, it would be a factor.
Very good. And I do know the CEO and the chief are meeting to bring back the fire master plan with the recommendations. So that's coming too as well to make sure they align up with a potential future look at that plan from the original document we received from the master plan. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor Broad. I think the other thing I think there's a strong case that a ladder truck is going to be required because of growth, which I think can be funded through DC charges. So I think that would reduce it to zero, to be honest with you, in this asset management plan of what we have to fund. Correct? If it's getting paid through DC charges, then it doesn't need to doesn't need to be in this report, right? We don't need to fund it because it's funded through DC charges.
Treasurer
I
Stewart?
got three hands up too.
Through you, Mayor. Well, we haven't determined the development charges yet. But
Correct.
certainly, because this is a live document, as things change, we can certainly factor in whatever the case may be into future.
But we would still own the asset.
Yeah, but
Which
then
is
it
the-
comes in it after you purchase it, not before you purchase it.
I guess we wouldn't have to pay for the original asset, but the
Correct.
replacement we would.
If we purchase one.
If we, yeah, no, that's right. Yeah,
That's
of
right.
course.
So
Yeah.
Subsequent to
continue.
that?
Yeah.
So this is where I'm still a little bit confused, because we had a master services plan, and I heard very clearly, and I said very clearly, take the ladder truck out of the plan. We had the asset management plan, and we discussed it, and I think collectively we said, take the ladder truck out of the plan. This ladder truck continues to keep creeping back into our plans. And I think the decision was made by this council to take the ladder truck out of the plan. I want a consensus. I'd like to have a consensus, and if we got to vote on it with an official motion, I don't know. The ladder truck should be taken out of any plan.
Correct, until the committee.
Until, and then if
the master plan
there
comes
is a
back.
decision to actually, in the future, potentially purchase a ladder truck, then since it's a live document, then we can put it in the plan. But we collectively have said this a couple times. In my opinion, we've said it a couple times, or a couple of us have anyways, that we're not in the purchase ladder truck business. But it keeps coming back in our reports. Yes, sorry.
Well, no,
Treasurer Stewart?
through Mayor. So then that's fine. We will move to option 2 for this, and it will be removed from
Right.
the document, and
Okay.
the reserves will be adjusted accordingly.
Thank you. We've been talking about this for a little while. I think we need to put a period on it until we conclude. or
Well, that's why
actually-
I mentioned that we're gonna bring the master plan back, so
Yeah.
we'll recognize that we're gonna discuss it again. So let's not discuss it, to your point, again.
Yeah. I'm saying with a smile on my face. I'm
Yeah,
not
no, it's very good.
angry about it. I just
Yep.
keep saying the same message.
Okay, we'll keep that at 0, and it can come up again when the master plan is discussed. But for now, we'll remove it. So for the water network, all level of service metrics are maintaining current levels of service, and then the same for wastewater, so I'll move past them unless there are any comments. And then we can move into the financial strategy. So with the proposed levels of service, and then taking the aerial unit ladder truck out, annual requirement is expected to drop by approximately 850,000. And now with this, we discussed in our last meeting to target a certain percentage of the calculated annual requirement. So the total annual requirement, taking all municipal assets, dividing them by their estimated useful life would be 13.5 million. And since this, funding this level annually is not feasible, we're recommending targeting a certain percentage of that annual requirement. So currently, we are funding approximately 25% of that calculated annual requirement. And we have a few funding target options. So we've grouped the municipal assets into 3 groups based on their consequence of failure. So group 1, including the municipality's road network, bridges, culverts, buildings, facilities, water network, wastewater network, and vehicles. Staff's recommending we target 40% of the annual requirement. And then for asset group 2, with moderate consequence of failure assets, so machinery, equipment for administration, fire, public works, and recreation, we're recommending 25%. And then for group 3, we're recommending 10% for the storm network and land improvement assets. So with these recommendations, we would be looking at 10-year annual funding target of around 5.3 million. So that would be our target. We would want to be contributing approximately 5.3 million in 10 years. So I guess we can go back to the asset group 1. We're recommending 40%.
Yep, Councilor Ward. Yep.
Thanks, Mayor. So, so asset 1 includes, in my mind, this is my opinion, includes high consequence, high failure, like there would be some big decisions we'd have to make if these assets failed. When I look at buildings and facilities, there's a lot of buildings and facilities we own that maybe the consequence of their failure would not be, in my opinion, service altering. So I'm wondering if some of those facilities that are, how do I say this, not used as much or not, like, is this just the arena or are these all facilities?
It would include all buildings and facilities. And there are going to be some buildings, some facilities that are higher risk and then some that are lower risk. So I think the idea moving like with this strategy is that we can use more of that funding to put towards the higher risk assets rather than the lower risk assets.
I guess in my mind, I see buildings and facilities as an asset group 2, and that funding level would be 25%. That's my opinion, but
Yeah, a
it
lot
would
of,
reduce, I would assume it would reduce that annual contribution then, if we went down to 25%.
Yes, I don't have an exact number right now, but it would reduce it for sure.
yeah, no, I definitely understand your comment because although residents, constituents wouldn't be happy not to have a service of a building, whether it's life-changing, right? Under the water network, you know, and the water treatment plant, very life-changing for the folks that are on that system. But, you know, the arena is not life-changing necessarily. Unfortunate, but not necessarily life-changing. So that's the point of your comment.
I do want to clarify something if I can here. So water and wastewater buildings would be included
Yes.
in the water and wastewater networks.
Yeah,
So
that's why it was like, so those ones are definitely 40%, and that's why I was
Right.
making that revelation. Councilor Vino?
The facilities I would look to be kind of high consequence would be our fire stations, right? That would be a big issue if one of them, because you got to park the fire trucks inside somewhere in the wintertime with the water, right? So I see your point. Some of these buildings would be service related to the constituents. Some of them I think would be high consequence. So it's, if we really start to, we'll really have to start weeding through all, you'd have to pick a group of facilities, I think, that you want to fund 40% in a group. I assume that the plan includes, like, some of those higher consequence facilities, you'd want to be putting away 60%, and some of the lower consequence, you'd want to be putting away 20%, so you arrive at 40% to kind of generalize the entire facilities fleet. I assume that's probably how this worked.
That is correct. That was the intention.
Councilor Ward?
Yes, I think, I guess my perspective, it would be like the parks and recreation facilities that I would rather see funded 25% than that was kind of what I was getting at. Because they're, again, like if they fail, Like, that's a level of
Yeah,
service
no, I
decision,
agree.
and I can understand
Yeah.
where it is an important thing to
So-
the community, but
Yeah.
it's just that funding target is artificial as well, right? Like, we're not meeting our funding target now, but just trying to help, because this is gonna be a big hit to the budget every year, that's all.
Yeah, Councilor Reno?
Yeah, just to clarify, because I agree, but I want to be sure on the numbers. So if we took some of those lower consequence facilities out and moved them to 25%, would the 40% need to increase because it's not being averaged out amongst so many of the buildings because some of them are higher consequence, some are lower? Or like, would we be robbing Peter to pay Paul if we moved them that way?
I mean, we could move rec facilities down to 25%, and if you would prefer, we could always bump up fire buildings and facilities up to 50%. Like, it ultimately is your decision.
Fire is already at 25%, so if you want to be 40, it needs to be bumped up to group 1.
Facilities is in group 1, which would be the fire facilities, wouldn't it, not the equipment?
Fire facilities would be 40%.
So it's water and wastewater.
Oh,
Okay. Water and wastewater, the facilities are not included in water and wastewater, they're included in facilities.
I'll clarify here now. So
Yeah.
for all water assets are specifically water-funded assets, so it
Right, so
includes
they're all in.
every asset that would be included in water, and then the same for wastewater. However, buildings and facilities would be the remaining buildings and facilities once you take water and wastewater out.
So fire is just fleet then, and whatever else is in fire.
Well,
Not
fire facilities would be included in building and facilities, and then fire vehicles would also be included in the vehicles category.
So what's in asset group 2 then? Machinery and equipment related to administration fire. Okay, so the buildings are in group 1. Okay, that's fine with me.
So,
Yep, it's up here.
so then, Counselor, to your question then, if we are to extract our rec buildings and put it into, to asset group 2, what is the financial impact to asset group 1? With leaving the essential buildings at the 60% mark. I would think you're correct. I think if it's being averaged, it means that number is getting a little bit lower overall, where I think if the math is correct, in my mind, your mind and my mind's correct, by taking it to asset 2, you're actually gonna bump up the group asset 1 value.
You'll lower some, the ones that you
Correct.
move to the 25, but you'll increase what you.
Correct.
Contribution requirement for the.
So
Correct.
you're still only fund. I don't know, Tyler, I don't understand this. So
You have to
if-
do the math.
Right, okay, but if you're funding it at 40 versus 25, why would it be more expensive if you're funding it at 25 than at 40?
Because your 60 then becomes a true 60 value. Your 60% is your true 60 value. So if you have 3 assets or 4 buildings that are at 60%, and you only have a couple buildings at 20%, well, that's still lowering that 60% value. So if you take the 2 buildings out and put it at the 25, it means your 60% for the remaining is still hot. I think it increases it. Julie, the treasurer, hello. Help us out here. We're trying to do math with our hands.
Through you, Mayor. If you were to make it more detailed and extract and put them where they belong, it will be the same number, because all he's doing is taking an average. If you're taking that average and putting the 60% where it belongs and the 25% where it belongs, it's still gonna work out the same numbers.
Still works out. At the bottom line, it
Yes.
still works out.
Where it will make-
regardless of how it moves.
Where it will make a difference is if you take out some of the facilities that you want at 25%
Okay.
and leave the other ones at 40%. That's where you'll see a difference as far as lower costs.
Okay, I'd have to see the math, to be honest with you. I think Cole's saying the same thing. We just need to see the math, but, okay, we trust you.
Okay,
Maybe.
based on those notes, we can we can put something together and maybe and we'll present it in the next meeting, and if it works for you guys, then we can pass it. But if you have comments, then we can come back to it. So I think that's everything that I needed then to move forward.
Okay, any other? Councillor Ward?
I just wanted to say thank you, Tyler.
Yeah.
For walking us through that for the 12th time. Thank you.
Yep, no, that's good work, and we're continue to work at it. And this is gonna be, partially some of the, important documents that we want to use at some of our future delegations. So as the CEO and I, and the council team think about, being in front of ministers, and this is the piece of information we really want to use and have these charts and asking these questions help us learn, and we can be clear with ministers on funding and where we need help and where we need to look after ourselves too, right? Because I think it's a partnership for sure. So I think it's great, and we'll continue to work on it, and it's a living document, right? So we'll continue to work on it. It'll be really interesting when we get to next year's budget, 26 budget, then the next council's 27 budget, how we can actually start to move towards funding the asset management plan. Okay, anything else, council team? We'll move to committee of the whole. D, options for Morrisburg and Iroquois Plaza properties. Deputy Mayor, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so since this is a committee of the whole meeting, there's no sense of going up to the big guy's chair. Just do it be informal here. So we do have a report in front of us about the Iroquois and the Morrisburg Plazas. A couple notes that I just want to say is that it is refreshing to see that we're actually, regardless of this report, we're actually moving forward with the rehabilitation for both plazas. We see in a report later on about the Iroquois one, and hopefully on the heels of this will set us up for the Morrisburg one. So I think that's something that's been well needed for a long time. It just, where do we go from here, or do we go anywhere from here based on this report? So I'll turn it over to CAO Ben Dahan.
Thank you very much, and I do want to say a big thank you to the team here. I'm still new, and I'll keep using that excuse for a little while yet. They've been, beneficial. This is not my report; it's our report, and appreciate all the help and support in getting to this point. So, a couple, I guess, historical things to start with. It was in part of the research and putting this all together. Really cool to be able to go back into the old archives and look at the photos and some of the articles associated with the opening of the Plaza and Iroquois and Shopping Center. And what was really interesting, you kind of go down a little bit of a rabbit hole, was reading about how this, at their opening, that they were considered to be the most modern shopping centers in all of Ontario. That was actually quite an accomplishment and quite a point of pride for the community, seeing them open and being able to accommodate up to 500 vehicles in each parking lot. And that was such an exciting thing to have. But I also found when looking at the Iroquois Plaza opening, the subheadline that was there too was it's going to be a far cry from the good old days, which is, I guess, a testament to the loss of the main streets and the main street businesses, and how this was a change for the community. So I guess keeping that in mind as we go through this whole, presentation for council, because ultimately I think we at a staff level recognize that this is not if there was an easy answer, we would already be there by now. And this is a very difficult concept to kind of discuss and get some direction on. So today really, and that's what this is all about, and why we're presenting for council, is we're just looking for a little bit of some direction so that we know where we can focus our efforts to give more information to not only council, but to the community, to the business owners. And so I want to reiterate that again, is this is not looking for a decision from council. This is not considered a decision. This is really just trying to make sure that we're focusing on the direction that council wants more information, the most information on, so that we can research it and make sure we get the best information back to council. And I want to stress again that the engagement with the business owners as we move through that will be a major part of that future discussion. So that's our perspective. And of course, we work at the direction of council, and I fully anticipate that that's the direction council wants us to take. So to that end, we'll start just kind of going into a little bit of the background on the ownership and responsibility as it stands today at the plazas and kind of things that are going on. So Iroquois Plaza, the area highlighted in red, very rough idea of the areas owned by the municipality. As council is aware, we are looking at an infrastructure renewal that's scheduled for starting this summer at a cost of approximately 1.3 million. I'm rounding up a little bit there, but that's general sense of what that looks like relative to the areas that the municipality owns. Similarly, in Morrisburg, highlighted area is what the municipality owns. The design work is underway for the renewal of a lot of this infrastructure. Very preliminary estimates are about $3.5 million for that rehabilitation work. But of course, as we go through the design, that number is going to get refined based on the full detailed design that our consultants are working through. What does that mean today to have that ownership and responsibility for the municipality, and what has it meant for the municipality since these were open and kind of as things have changed through the years? So right now, the municipal staff do garbage collection and disposal in the plazas. They do snow removal and the application of de-icer, mowing, leaf and yard maintenance, so the aesthetics of the plazas. Pressure washing, lighting repairs and maintenance, patching, road patrolling. There are some open road allowances that are patrolled regularly by staff. And patching includes that work in not only on the roads, the technical roads, but also in the plaza parking areas themselves, canopy repairs, and capital investments. And I recognize that, and I guess applaud really council for moving forward with some significant investments that are coming up in the next little bit for those capital investments. But again, I do want to clarify too, just for the benefit of council and those that may be tuning in today, that there's no responsibility for building facades or the interiors of the plaza businesses. Those are owned by the owners and looked after by the owners. So it's essentially the outsides of the buildings that the municipality owns. Costs for the maintenance work. So in 2025, budgeted $145,000 for the plazas. Again, just to reiterate, the upcoming capital work is going to be about $5 million in capital work. Again, that's got to be approved by council, obviously, but I think based on what I understand, there's a strong desire to get that work done, given where we are today. And there is no special payments or fees to offset these costs from the businesses. It's funded through the municipality. And so getting into some of the alternatives that are available for looking for alternatives on how we want to move forward in the future, if any change at all. What staff have done, we've kind of broken it down into several different alternatives. And we're going to provide council just a high-level overview of what they look like, pros and cons, and then again looking for council's, I guess, preferred alternative that they want some more information on, so that we can start to work through what that may look like for everybody that's affected by it. So alternative one is, and I'm kind of going on a sliding scale from, I'm going to call it the most impactful to businesses to the least impactful to businesses. Alternative one is the full disposal of the common areas. So what that would include is closing municipal roads, disposing and turning ownership over to another entity. And I guess today is not intended to get into the weeds of who that entity might be or what that entity looks like, but rather that conceptually that's what it can be researched. We would, as a municipality, have to make sure we maintain control of the underground infrastructure, and that can be accomplished through easements and in a variety of different ways. So it can be done, but we do have quite a challenge to work through to make sure our interests are looked after there. Many pros and cons to this potential alternative. Obviously the pros are, this kind of converts it back to what would be a traditional shopping center you'd think of in most communities. So it removes that infrastructure and the liability associated with it, not only from a financial side of things, but also a legal side of things. I don't think this council would be surprised to know that there are slips, trips, and falls that happen all the time that the municipality has to respond to. The pros, on the pro side of this is to have this discussion, the best time to have this discussion is whenever the infrastructure is in a like new state, because it doesn't create that burden on businesses today. It does create a burden in the future, absolutely, but it doesn't. We've fixed the infrastructure, so much easier time to talk about a change of ownership, in staff's opinion. It gives businesses greater autonomy for future direction and use of those common areas. There's no denying and no getting around the fact that if it's municipally owned parking lot, the ability for businesses to get together and say, hey, let's have a farmer's market, it's a lot harder to do if they have to involve the municipality, the things that we need to think about from an insurance and liability perspective. And trust me when I say staff don't love having those conversations. I'm assuming it's through the clerk's office. We would love to be much more permissive than we are kind of legally allowed to be. But as privately owned, there's a lot more potential for creativity and ability to maneuver very quickly to do those kinds of things. It does provide some long-term certainty for the municipality, and create some equity for businesses that are non-plaza businesses or businesses that are adjacent, even in Morrisburg. What are the cons associated with it? I don't think we can deny the fact that it has some significant financial impacts potentially to businesses. We could be argued it's contrary to the purpose why those plazas were created. The plazas were created, again, that loss of that downtown core. It doesn't provide a main street service, and the difficulty of just transferring ownership. We've got to have a willing party to take ownership. So we can't deny the fact that there is some challenges there if there isn't an engagement for this type of alternative. Alternative 2 actually is a little bit of a difference, but there is some transfer of ownership. So it's looking at disposal of selected elements of the plazas. So, and what that could be is entirely at the direction of council. And again, this is why we value the input we will hopefully get, because it could be the idea of disposal of, for example, rear loading areas, canopies, sidewalks in front of the businesses, but maintaining ownership of the rest. It could be just maintaining ownership of, as an example, the roadways, but parking lots are disposed of. There's a variety, a million different ways we could look at it. And if council wants to go down this road, no pun intended, we can happily start to create some of those iterations and have that for further discussion. So ultimately, at the end of the day, what we want to do as a municipality is make sure we still have some control of the underground infrastructure, and that can be done through easements or through not disposing those areas, again, depending on what direction council wants to take it. Pros and cons, not too different. It does have financial impact as a con side to the businesses. Creates some challenges from a overlapping responsibility and liability. As an example, if the municipality disposed the parking areas, but maintained the roadways and someone slipped as they were walking from the parking area to the roadway, how are we responding? Who's responding? Different levels of insurance coverage may impact how that works. But what it does do, on the positive side, does remove some infrastructure and legal liability from the municipality. Again, we're at a great time to have this discussion as things are in a new and renewed state. It does, again, provide businesses some greater autonomy for their use of the common areas. And, it could be argued that this actually aligns maybe more with a traditional main street that you see in a downtown area. I think of somewhere like Winchester or in Alexandria, where you've got, a roadway, some on-street parking, sidewalks near the storefronts, but then, storefronts in that main street have ownership of, that front little piece in front of their businesses, as well as canopies on top, signs, all those kinds of things. Alternative 3 is more of a cost recovery financial model, and so it can be thought of similar to Alternative 2, but without that formal change of ownership. So what this alternative provides the municipality is the flexibility to determine what's funded through, I'm going to call it general taxation versus support through the businesses. There are some tools available for council to recover those costs. And again, if council prefers this alternative, this is the kind of thing that we at the staff level need to really do that type of review to make sure things are feasible. But there's, BIA models, there's special service levies that are tools that are available through Municipal Act and other acts to recover some of those costs. Similar pros and cons, it does remove some financial liability. The pros is the ownership arrangement it stays unchanged. From staff's perspective, this probably has the highest flexibility and potential ease of implementation of the alternatives that are making a change. Cons, of course, it does, again, we're coming back to that idea that we are potentially impacting businesses financially. Still creates the ownership of areas by the municipality, so there is some restriction of autonomy and use of common space. And I think, it does create that pressure to underinvest in long-term plans like we do. We've got an asset management plan, but I will, I'll always say with council it's unapologetically, I'll say, if we have to balance between keeping a bridge open versus paving a parking lot, I'm gonna say 100 times out of 100, we need to keep that bridge open over paving a parking lot. So, this is an asset in our inventory. If it remains in our inventory, and if it's funded through taxation, it's got to compete against all our other assets, and that's just the reality of it, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but it becomes a balancing act of when does it become a top priority to invest in, and that's part of what we do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis around this table. So. Alternative 4 is, of course, the status quo. So that is no change. We move forward with the capital investments that we're making. We understand through council that there's no desire to change the arrangement that we have. Again, this is a very reasonable alternative for council to give us direction on, and we kind of put to bed the idea of different arrangement with the plaza business owners, and we'll continue to move forward in the way we're moving forward right now. So just to summarize things, what we're really looking for today is an understanding of which alternative and potential sub-options that council really would like us to provide more information on so that we can focus those efforts. Again, stressing this isn't, we appreciate and want to reiterate, it's not a decision. We're just really making sure we understand where we're focusing our efforts. And what this will do from our perspective is give us a good starting point to have those consultations with the businesses and move forward. So unless if it's status quo, I think that it's more of a communication to businesses rather than consultation, unless council sees it otherwise. So with that, I'll leave it with council.
Thank you for that report. Thank you for the presentation. It was well done and easy to follow. I think two things you've really keyed in, and we can talk about the alternatives in a second, but I think the two things that you've really keyed in on is no decisions. We're talking at this stage. It was brought forward that we wanted to review if the level of service for our plazas, and that's what we're doing. So we're going to continue having that discussion, and we will engage the businesses for sure. And I'm glad you clarified that it was for the exterior. I know I was approached during the trade show by one individual, one owner. There seemed to be a little bit of confusion, at least the way he interpreted the information, that he thought it was within the building and we're going to start fixing all the plumbing and all that good stuff. So I'm glad you clarified that it was exterior of the building. So what I'm going to do just for now, before I make my comments, I'd like to open it up to the floor and see if Tom or Danielle have any comments or suggestions. And Tom?
Yeah, so, thank you. There's a lot of information in there. It's a lot to digest. I guess I'll just quickly start it off. The 4 options that are there. I think we're at a point where number 4, maintaining the status quo, is probably no longer an option. I don't really like option number 2 as well, because I just think that that's just going to be really, really messy trying to get that figured out. So it's either going to be number 1 or number 3. I don't know, whatever. what does everybody else think?
So I'm similar to you, Counselor Smith. I would say status quo, we just can't afford to keep doing that. And I think that, you know, as a counselor, I see the state that the plazas are in, and it's basically a reflection of how strapped we are for cash. And we have all these assets that we, as Mr. Nelson just said, we underfund. So having something like this is an area where it should be beautiful. Business owners should be proud. Residents should love to go there and spend time there. And unfortunately, we just don't have the money to continue to do that. So I think status quo for me is just out of the question at this point. I also agree partial disposal gets a little messy. I can appreciate it's similar to like a regular downtown area in a city or a small village, but again, how does that work and where does the liability end where it's not really a road allowance, it becomes kind of who knows what. I do like option 1 and 3, and I think I'd like to see both of those come back to us, or at least both of those be presented to the business owners and get their feedback on both of those options, because really disposal, if there's no agreeing parties, it kind of makes it kind of difficult, but cost recovery might also be an option that they would consider. So that's my opinion. Sorry, I guess I'm in agreement with you, Councilor Smith.
Okay, so I've been pondering this for a little while. I'm not, just because it's open discussions, I'm not convinced that option 1 of disposing is an option. I think that would be a higher impact, a higher financial impact to the businesses when it gets to become private ownership. So I'm just not really in favor of that one. I think when I think about the best alternative, I think it is alternative number 3, where we need to recognize in municipality it was out of our control that the Seaway got built. It was out of our control that, you know, businesses, houses lost their waterfront, lost their main street, and it impacted us considerably. Not us as me, because it was well before my time, but still a lot of people in our municipality it affected. So when I look at what was lost and what was gained, some people could argue that what was gained was actually too much. Big parking lots, garbage, specific garbage collection, things of that nature is probably more than what they lost, but I can kind of understand why that would have occurred. You know, it wasn't a like for like deal. It's not at the time, okay, you lost a street, I'm going to give you a street back, right? It was, you lost a street, you lost your business, we need to provide much more than what you lost. And I can kind of understand that, not diving into all the agreements and legal agreements, because I'm sure it's knee deep and all that, but I just would think that would be the approach of the day. But we are here today, 2025, and we got to come to a reality of, as you said, Ben, this is becoming an asset in our overall asset management plan. And the way it is moving forward today, the plaza is actually suffering because of that, because there isn't enough money to go around to be able to continuously fix up the parking lot and fix up other assets there. So from my perspective, I think alternative 3 is the one I would like to see us move forward, at least to have some discussions directly with the business owners. I think for Iroquois, there's a business group already developed. That's an easy one. I think for Morrisburg, we're going to have to reach out and maybe create a little bit of a committee and ask to get a committee created for Morrisburg. But certainly, I think we do have a responsibility for the main street. I think we have responsibility for parking in front of the storefronts. I think we do have a responsibility for the sidewalks, because they would have probably potentially lost 2 sidewalks, both sides. So I think we do have a responsibility for that. What I don't think we should have a responsibility for is the snow plowing within the big parking lot areas. And I don't think we should have a responsibility for garbage pickup. So I think there's a discussion to have, and I think there's I would say a operation and maintenance agreement that could be developed. I think there's and how that unfolds and the cost on that remains to be seen. I'm not even suggesting that if we were to introduce some type of levy for snow plowing, that it's 100% their cost. Maybe it's a split. Maybe we split it 50-50, maybe we split it 75-25, that we still have some of the burden, or the cost is some of our cost. Because again, it is something that was out of their control at the time, and I think we should kind of recognize that a little bit. So I think there's some avenues, and like you say, you can dive down this a million different ways and come up with a million different scenarios. I think we can simplify it, though. I think we can come up with a formula that can simplify it, that it's not a major impact to businesses, that for the smaller businesses that they can't financially support what we would offer. And I think that's key. I mean, because what we don't want to do is drive away small business. I know in Mooresburg, we got a lot of bigger box stores. We've got, the liquor stores, we got the beer stores, we got some of them that probably will be able to sustain a levy or some sort of tax, I guess a levy, tax, whatever. But I do think some of the smaller businesses, it could drive them out, and I don't want that to happen. So I think we got to be transparent. I think we got to come up with a solution formula that takes some of that asset off of our responsibility. It puts it on their responsibility, but not to the point where it drives business away. So I know that's going to be a little bit tricky, but I think the first starting point is let's come up with a consensus that this is the alternative we want to approach the businesses with, and then let's come up with some good suggestions on how we can have shared funding. Make sense? Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
This is just a hypothetical question. So say the township invests the 5 million, taxpayers pay the 5 million, and then we dispose of the asset to some sort of entity or to the businesses. Could we give it to them for $1? Like hypothetically, is that a case scenario that we could consider?
You could pay them to take it. Absolutely. Well, I think you could. I think you absolutely could as part of that agreement of sale, but it's completely up to council.
Okay, I just wanted to understand if
Yep.
that was possible.
Yeah, no, I think that's, and to be honest, like that would not be an unreasonable approach to be, I think, for council to consider.
Tom?
Yeah, just whenever you're talking about like the impact that's going to be on some of the businesses and stuff, there's some, just a ballpark of, say, a fairly large store, a 3,000 square feet or so is paying, it'd be probably upwards of $3,000 a year in property taxes. I don't know, like whatever. And then I had mentioned before about there was about 150,000 square feet of retail space in all those stores, and we're looking for about 150,000 in money, so it's about $1 a square foot. So if you have a 3,000 square foot store, now all of a sudden you're hitting them with another $3,000 levy or whatever it is, like that's a big bill. So we have to really be careful with how it's going to be billed exactly. If it's going to go by square feet, it's going to go by frontage. Some of the businesses could handle a big bill, like a bank or whatever, and then some of the mom and pop shops, it would be detrimental to their operations. So we have to be really careful how we do this.
I think too, we have to be very careful that we also acknowledge that there are businesses that are standalone that pay for all those things on their own, right? So I want to make sure whatever the calculation is, it's very transparent. It gets a lot of feedback, not just from business owners, but also from the tax base. Because what I don't want to see is us helping some businesses and leaving other businesses to manage their own finances. If you're in a business, the cost of operation is the cost of operation. And I don't want to drive out small business by any means, but I do think we need to understand that there's a disparity right now where we are supporting all the businesses in the plaza, and there are businesses that are not in the plaza that are not receiving that assistance. So I feel very strongly about that. So I just want to make sure whatever calculation we do is transparent and we get feedback not just from plaza, but also from the tax base to understand that subsidy rate. So if we're going to go if we're gonna fund 50% or 25% of plowing or whatever we decide on, I just wanna make sure that that receives feedback from the general tax base as well, that everyone's okay with that subsidy.
No, that's a great point. One other question I had on the, and maybe you don't know, the section on the east portion, which I think is privately owned, we do not maintain or do anything with that plaza in terms of the parking lot or garbage collection, or what do we do there?
So yeah, through you, I guess, I guess no one's answering your question in the committee though. So during the winter, typically what we've been starting to do is we don't maintain any snow removal there. That's privately taken care of. We've been attempting to take some of the garbage cans from there, put them in the green belt in the summer, and then in the winter, just to support, we do move the garbage cans typically back in the winter. That's sort of the most recent iteration that we've been doing, but there's a little bit of garbage collection, basically, to answer your question.
No, that's fine, that's fine. Okay, so do we have Tom, one more, or?
Yeah, just for Director Jansen, if you just had to put a dollar figure on the snow removal in both plazas, and the garbage pickup's hard, but approximately of that 150,000-ish that would be earmarked for the plazas, what would that ballpark number be?
So that 145,000 is staff time. There's a little bit of basic repairs and maintenance funding in there. There's snow removal. So that 145,000 is basically the answer to that question, Councillor Smith.
Sorry, I just had a kind of a follow-up on the cost. Some of it though, when we're talking about all of the rehabilitation costs, some of it though is on the wastewater, correct?
The 5 million.
Versus taxation?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yes.
Okay. And the service stubs off the main into the building, is that business owners or is that ours?
Yeah, so the water, there's a water main that goes right in front of the leader. That is the main, but all the going, and also in the middle section of the plaza is also a main, but the laterals, they're basically they're ours because the curb stops are right up against the building. So to answer your question, the basic
They're ours.
So
Okay.
pretty much the whole infrastructure is ours, but the mains are going through the plaza and that.
Okay, yeah, okay. I don't think we need to drag this out too much longer. Do we have a?
Sorry, just one more
Okay,
quick
last one. 7:30, we haven't even gotten through the main one yet.
Maybe a way forward on this could be maybe like a hybrid between 1 and 3. Maybe you could try and just the canopies and sidewalks, maybe seeing if they could just transfer that over, and then maybe we'll work on whatever's left. Maybe it's just an option whenever we're trying to figure things out.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, like we've got, to me, and actually I'll turn it over to Director Jansen, who's taking good notes, and we'll talk about next steps if that works for council.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to summarize a couple of, just to keep this ball rolling, obviously we want to go from here and we want to keep it moving. I think a lot of the discussion today was around alternative 3. I think on the consultation side, obviously, in my opinion, I think I'd like to start with a survey. We can make separate surveys, and in that survey, keep it very simple, 4 or 5 questions, just to get people's thoughts, mostly just prioritizing some of the services that, we want to discuss, like whether garbage removal is included or not included, just sort of get some priorities from the business owners in a written form. Also in that survey include, what type of communications they'd like. Would they prefer one-on-one meetings? Would they prefer open house? And keep it simple like that. And then also, with the goal of having, open houses, one-on-one meetings with these business owners. And then for council next steps, really just breaking down some of those services that we provide and associated costs with them. Similar to the question that Councillor Smith had, right now, yes, it's $145,000. It's not perfectly broken down, but just for council to be able to, see all those costs broken down a little bit more and have, a similar discussion to this, but a little bit more focused on, what services we want to, include and not include.
Okay, I'm going to respond to that. No survey. We don't need to do a survey to ask them, because I just find with surveys, it's how the survey's perceived. This is a direct discussion moving forward. Let's get the committee moving. I don't want a survey. This is I understand what you're trying to achieve, Director, but I don't think this is the avenue for it. Let's just start with the discussions directly. Let's lay it out for them, what we're thinking, and let's just go from there. This, to me, a survey is just gonna delay another month or two, and then somebody's gonna see a survey, well, what's this question mean? And, you know, let's take the assumptions out of the question from the survey, and let's just have direct discussions with them moving forward.
I think that I would partially agree with that. I just think that we need to be very prepared when we reach out to have the numbers. Like, I don't want to pre-consult them. I just want to say, hey, this is the cost. These are the options. What do you want to do? Because I feel that if we don't have the information, all of it, it'll just get confusing. They don't need reiteration. So I think if we're going to present the cost recovery option, like you said, find out what the asset replacement costs are, find out like everything, garbage, recycle, whatever is in that plaza, and then present it to them. Because I just think going back to them multiple times is just not, I don't think it's going to get anywhere. So I would rather just have all the information.
Sorry, there, it's red. Yeah, how about our next step? We're coming back to council with a little bit more detail on option 3, and then that will help, like, then we can get some clear, like, from council. Yeah, let's bring this forward, because I've already got a couple ideas in my mind, and we'll kind of maybe present some draft ideas of how we reach out to like, how we talk to the businesses about this. So if that works for council.
Okay, I think you got your nod there. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We'll move to 7C, KR, surplus lands update. CO DeHaan.
Thank you. I think this will be relatively quick, maybe. Just getting there. Thank you. Just getting the presentation all loaded up here. So we did, and again, I'm going to use the I'm new, so please excuse me if I misspeak. That's Director Jansen's here to give me a good elbow if I misspeak. And before I start, I do want to acknowledge the hard work provided by our summer student Naomi in a lot of the background that happened with this report. So appreciate her hard work and continued hard work after this meeting. Council had declared some land surplus previously. What we're intending to do, and I've listed those lands right there, what we're intending to do is come back to council at a later date. Actually, it would probably be at the next meeting if we can get ourselves all organized by the next meeting, just to give an update on kind of the status of those things. So we've separated out lands that council has declared surplus versus lands that council was looking for more information. So today we're talking about lands council is looking for more information on. And in that we have, I guess we're looking for a thumbs up, thumbs down on a couple of ideas of how to move forward with some of those lands and make sure that is aligns with council's expectations of where we're going. So I'm not going to spend time on the lands previously declared surplus. It's coming back later. So just said that, so we've broken down in the stuff we're talking about today. We have two groups, ones that we're recommending based on the information we're giving to council today to be declared surplus. And then the other ones, we're just looking for some additional feedback or a consensus that, maybe hold off on doing much more. So starting off, first one is what is commonly known as the Lockmaster's House property. Obviously very desirable location out in Iroquois. There's a variety of development opportunities, and I think staff recognize that there is, the municipality would want to see in the potential development of that land, a development that's consistent with the vision of the community. So what we're suggesting, if council is supportive of it, is we come back, declare it surplus, but the process to dispose of that land is actually a more of it's not, highest bidder or anything like that, but rather based on what's the word I'm looking for?
Expression of interest.
Expression of interest, thank you. I was drawing a blank. An expression of interest with some information about that potential development. And then council has the ability, you know, through the views of the community to make sure what is happening there does better align with the vision of the community. So I don't know, through you,
Yeah,
Mr.
we'll just
Mayor,
do each one. We'll just
you wanna do each one.
Yeah. so each
And
one.
again, just thumbs up, thumbs down is what we're really looking for, if that
Yeah, I
makes sense.
think for me, yeah, having a vision of the place, it's a special place, so I think it definitely aligns with what your statement is there for me. Yep, agreed. Thumbs up.
Perfect. Corner of County Road 8. So we did take a closer look at this one as well and confirmed we can potentially development as a small residential dwelling. So our recommendation is declare it surplus, attempt a traditional sale. It is a small parcel of land that will require some special design for the septic system, absolutely. So our suggestion, attempt a sale, and if after a certain period it's unsold, maybe look if SDG counties may be interested in acquiring that property. For example, roadside tree planting, or with new surplus fill requirements and legislation, this may be an ideal site for, you know, landscaping and using surplus fill that they're generating in this area. So that's our recommendation, and we'll look to council if they agree.
Yep, we agree.
Okay. Very good. County Road 18 and Thunder Road, a similar idea here, but what we're suggesting is that we can actually close the old road allowance that used to hit County Road 18, I guess right into it. And that would actually increase the size to a pretty viable building lot of approximately 1 acre. So our suggestion, again, declare this surplus and then move forward with the sale, on the contingent on us also closing and including that old right-of-way as part of it.
Yep, Councillor Smith?
Yeah, so just a question on that one. So would that road allowance, half of that have to be, or would the whole thing offered for sale to the adjacent landowner that's right beside it? Or would there be a process to go through for that?
Yeah, our recommendation is to actually that entire right-of-way join as part of the vacant land. So to get to 1 acre in size, that whole right-of-way needs to go with that vacant land.
Councillor Vino.
I think for your question, you mean, like, is there a legal requirement to offer half of that road allowance for sale to the other adjacent owner? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think so.
Because I think
I think there might be.
Deputy?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Brown, I think we've asked that question a couple times, and I thought the answer was yes, so. But it could be, yeah.
We could double check on that. It could be different because we're joining it to our current property.
Correct.
So it's not like two property owners each side want half of it.
So scenario may
So
change.
Scenario could be different.
Okay, gotcha.
So we could, we'll just, so thumbs up, but double check the. Yeah, the driveway could be off Thunder Road. We wouldn't have to get an entrance off the county road there, so.
Correct.
That makes it a nice lot.
Absolutely. So the Matilda Hall surplus area, from our review, we're feeling very, and I know that for what I understand, there was a discussion about the replacement bed at that point in time. Staff are of the view that we can manage that replacement on the remaining property, whether it's a shift of parking lot or, you know, kind of in that same footprint, just given the distance to the back portion. So we're, you know, from our perspective, we're comfortable recommending that the parcel fronting on 16 be sold as residential development and the rear parcel sold as farmland.
We're within the reduced speed limit to be able to get a driveway for that piece of property. That's on County Road 16, sorry.
Yeah, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's in the settlement area.
It's in the
So,
settlement area,
yeah, there should be no issue getting a driveway.
The last director at the counties was tough,
Yeah, he
so we
was.
want to make sure.
I was going to say, he would have allowed it. I can't speak to the new one.
Councillor Smith?
Yeah, just on this one, I just am trying to go through scenarios in my mind, like, you know, 20 years from now, do we wish that we had kept this land for something? And you know, you keep hearing about like this new potential super shop that the public works may need or whatever it is, or new fire hall, but it's not, I don't think that that would ever be in an area that that would be service, that we would need that. If we were gonna build these buildings in the future, that would not be the location where they would go. So I 20 years from now, are we gonna need it? I really don't see a reason why we would need that land.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. Yeah. Yeah, some of the proposals on our asset management plan would want to have water and wastewater access, right?
I was just on the GIS system.
You were just double checking? Yeah, no worries. Yeah, and I think we kind of discussed this at one time. Yeah, farmland to the back makes total sense to include that as farm property and the residential lot on the county road. Okay, we're good?
Okay, the next one, a little bit of a bigger assembly of land. So this is we're calling it the Morseburg Wetlands. They are undevelopable because they're in what is a wetland area. So preferred approach that staff are suggesting for council's consideration is to transfer to a public entity engaged in the management of lands that have high conservation / ecological value. So as an example, South Nation counties, and dispose of the land that way, and make sure it's kind of maintained in a way that benefits the environment going forward. Not that we're not, it's just that it's more actively managed than we'd be able to do.
Councillor Ward.
Hear me out on this one, so I have
Yeah.
a different opinion. So I'd like to keep the land. And the only reason why I'm suggesting that is for two reasons. One, we talk about tree canopy all the time in our municipal, we haven't made a target, we haven't talked about it yet, but it's all treed, so it could contribute to that. And number two is the province likes to change its definition of wetlands depending on who's in power, and that is right on the 401, and that is prime real estate, so I would like to hold on to it. Giving it to the counties and South Nation, no offense to them, could end up being lucrative in the long run if things really change and development really pushes through. So I'd like to keep it for now. It doesn't cost us anything to keep it, so I would prefer to keep it, if that's my thought there.
Councillor Smith?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, when you say it doesn't cost us anything to keep it, does it actually cost us anything to keep it? Like, we have to pay, like, a certain amount of it's gonna be assessed property taxes, right? Some to ourselves and then school board plus counties. So what, would it be that much money? Like, how much would we be talking approximately? I don't, that's.
Maybe it's wetlands, so
Yeah,
it
it
shouldn't
wouldn't
be
be
very
that much, but there's still,
Yeah.
there would be a small cost there, but
Yeah,
not
there's
a
always
lot.
If I may, I'll let the experts talk about the taxation side of things, but I know that there are, like, by owning it, we do have to be responsible landowners and stewards, and in the past, we have had to deal with wildlife issues or trespass issues in there. So, and not that those are significant costs to the municipality, and not that this is why we're coming forward with this recommendation, but there are, you know, maintaining and owning land there is an inherent cost associated with it, and I guess an opportunity cost that the treasurer is frantically, what we can do, maybe, do you want to go forward?
Yeah, we can go forward and come back.
Kind of
Sure.
take a little bit of pressure off of
Councillor Smith?
poor treasurer.
Yeah, so just to follow up on Councillor Ward's thoughts, that once you get rid of it, it's gone for good. And that's, could potentially be some very desirable land at some point in time
Sure.
in the future. So I think we'll just hold that one for right now.
Councillor Vino, you want to comment, then we'll.
Yeah, just admittedly, originally I was for getting rid of it, but I didn't think about the changes in the policies every time, you know, we change government and stuff. Because I agree, if you look at all of our neighbors, they've all developed right on the rail line everywhere. And so I agree. I'd like to bring this back maybe sometime and just see what the deemed wetlands are there right now, and see if there really is a chance that they could, you know, be removed. Because I know there's lots of different levels of wetlands there. But,
Yeah, the deputy may have experience in those things.
No, I just have experience looking up the SDG GIS map, that's all, and it
Very
tells
good.
you right there, so, yeah, that's what I would do, my first stab at it.
Yeah.
And I'm not that quick.
All right, we'll move-
Maybe quicker than the treasurer to get us that answer,
That's all right.
we'll go.
It's all right, Treasurer Stewart.
So, through you, Mayor, the property that we're talking about, or all the properties, they are exempt.
They are exempt. Exempt from taxes. There you go, councillors. But we have to be good stewards of the land. So do you want to go thumbs down for now? We can always revisit it looks like you're gonna have a lot of other properties to sell, so let's concentrate on them. So thumbs down for now.
Okay, that's fair. So the Seaway parking lot, so one of the things, what we're suggesting here is actually some kind of consultation. Like, we heard this from council, and we do think that there's some value in having a consultation. And then once we have a better understanding of what that consultation looks like, or what the community sees as a vision for that piece of property, come back, share that, make a recommendation. An idea we had for that type of consultation is actually just, setting up there and letting people come to us, talk to us. So, we're trying to catch the people that are actually close to that area. If that's something council sees as an interesting way to do it, and at least we know we're kind of targeting those that are directly impacted by it.
Yeah, we requested public input on this in the past, so I think that's the next step to complete. Councillor Ward.
Just want to reiterate that the school board really needs to be involved in that in case they need to look at expansion for Iroquois Public in the future or something like that. I just want to make sure they're invited to the consultation if they don't show up. Oh, well, but.
Yeah, so include the school board.
Through you, Mayor Broad, our planner, I think, what's the saying that Stephanie has, development in the right
development, the right place.
Right place?
Yeah.
This isn't the right place for any type of development. That's just my opinion. I would just love to see this as green space. My philosophy is, and when we get looking at a couple others, when you start losing green space, you never get green space back. This has been historically an open area. It's beautiful area. When you drive down, it's nice. In my opinion, this is just not an area for development. I'm on the other side of the fence with that. Even a public consultation. I just think we should just leave it as is. Yep.
CO?
Yeah, sorry, and if I may, and I guess if councils, collectively councils, suggest that, yeah, we want to keep it green space, well, I don't, there's no value in doing consultation at that point, right? Because we're not going to make a change. And that's okay too.
I have to agree with the deputy. I mean, you're gonna get a few houses in there and that maybe an apartment building. I just don't think that's what we want people driving in to the town. I think I have to agree. And to Councillor Ward's point, we're trying to develop the schools and, we're gonna have a whole lot more people coming into the municipality with the new subdivisions. And so there's a good chance you're gonna need more parking at those schools. Like, I'd rather see that as a well-developed, nice treed parking lot, if anything, supporting our schools, than a row of condos or something. So I think we should thumbs down that one for now and leave that
Maybe
one
the
aside.
school board could buy it for a parking lot, so we don't
There you go.
own any more parking lots.
We don't have to cut the grass.
So, we talked a few times about this, so we kind of thought we'd go to the public. We did take personal public opinion at the time. That opinion was to keep it green space, but we kind of wanted to talk it through. But I think today we're going to go thumbs down and say this is leave it green space. Okay.
Am I on? Yes. Okay. So the Bow Street North, which was actually declared surplus. So I am going a little bit off of what I told you, how we were talking about these things already. But actually, one of the things we want to come back to council and just get some further input on. There's a lot of activity right now in Iroquois, if you can kind of picture where this is. And as we were looking at some of that activity and potential concepts that staff are working with developers on, there may be through this, I guess, we almost want to say, like, let's hold off on actually offering this for sale and see how things kind of grow there before we make a final determination.
Yeah,
because-
and I think one of the reasons at the time was we thought it was landlocked for us, so it may only be valuable to that adjacent landowner. But if if there's other things in the planning department's works, then it makes sense to just hold until we get more details on that. Yep, is that okay? Okay, so put that one on hold.
Very good. County Road 2, west of Iroquois, so that's a large piece of land. I know the county is looking at some official plan changes that may open up residential development opportunities directly onto county roads. I'm not sure when that's moving forward, but it is coming, from what I understand. I know there's, even internally, talking through the asset management plan and maybe some, joining of facilities. It's a nice, strategically located facility just on the periphery of town. So we're recommending at this point, just hold on and let's see where things go, and then we can make a decision in the future.
Yeah, and we kind of had thought too, I remember some of the conversations was we'd like a request for a proposal of somebody that might have an idea versus just being for sale, right? So that fits with kind of what we were thinking. Water, it ends just at the roundabout, so it's not far. So yeah, so it's totally a option, doable for sure. Yep.
My apologies, that is a bad slide. But Dundela Park, so some feedback we're looking for from council. So we're looking, if council wants us to investigate the opportunity to support some affordable housing through potential creation of a developable lot. There is some opportunity there for that. As an example, working with Habitat for Humanity to create a lot that's affordable for people. Similarly, on Orchard Park, our recommendation on Orchard Park is an archaeological study just being completed to confirm if there is even a potential disposal there, because it's right adjacent to the cemetery that exists there. So we would have to go through that process. So our recommendation there, let's just go through that archaeological survey, study, like phase 1, very, very preliminary work, see where it takes us. And if there's some potential issues there, which there very well could be, we say we're done with that one. Dundela Park, just looking for some input from council if that's something they want to pursue or want to leave Dundela Park as it is.
Similar example is what we did in Winchester Springs with the old park. Reduced the park size and we built a house for humanity on that property. Councilor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. So I'm good with Dundela. Absolutely. Orchard Way Park, that's in Morrisburg? It says in our council package it's in Iroquois. I just want to confirm it's in Morrisburg, right?
Yep.
Okay.
It's
I
in
was
Morrisburg,
looking for
yeah.
it and I was like, that's not right.
And if you recall, the first time we discussed it, our cemetery board member, Councilor Smith, was worried there might be an old church that was there, so we wanted to check the property before we did that.
I think I'd rather just leave that one. I don't necessarily want to spend money on something that we probably are going to end up not recouping anyways. So I would rather just leave it as part of that park because it already is part of the park, and hold on to it. And if another council wants to do something in the future, then so be it.
The mayor?
Yeah, thank you. I totally agree. And again, on top of that, I keep saying it, when you start losing green space and park space, you never recoup it again. So, and it's when you lose it, you're like, oh shoot. So I'm okay with that park. I know at one point in time, there was a lot of young families that were in around that area and it was getting well used. But so I'm okay with leaving the Orchard Park. Dundela Park, I'm okay with reviewing that as well further.
Same, okay, so Dundela Park, move forward, Orchard Park, do not. Very good. Excellent, thank you. Thank you, Director Jansen of Parks, Facilities, and Recreation. It was a great presentation. Thanks, CEO Don. Appreciate it. So that concludes the Committee of the Whole segment. So I have a motion. The Committee of the Whole rise and reconvene back in regular council at 7:53 p.m. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Okay. We're moving to bylaw 9A, 2025-45 Saddlemore Municipal Drain Update Assessment Schedule. Chris A. Thomas.
Good evening, through you, Mr. Mayor. So what we're looking for tonight are the first two readings of the bylaw to accept the report that was presented by the Shade Group this evening.
Very good. Any questions or comments? I have a motion, let it resolve that the Council of South Dundas give first and second reading of bylaw 2025 number 45, being a provisional bylaw to adopt the Section 76 Engineers Report of the Saddlemore Municipal Drain. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. Action requests, 10A, ED 2025-01, Community Improvement Plan, intake for 2025. Tia Freezer Dupuis.
Thank you. So to provide some background just to our listeners who may not be too familiar with the CIP, the Community Improvement Plan offers business and commercial owners or renters the opportunity to access funding through the form of grants and loans to improve their buildings. The facade improvement grant provides a one-time grant of 50% to a max of $4,000, and the signage and awning grant provides a one-time grant of 50% up to a max of $1,000. The CIP Review Committee met on May 15th and are recommending that Seaway Speech receive $4,450 for the facade and signage grant. Williamsburg Pump and Supply received sorry, a little typo here. $1,916.48 for the facade improvement grant, and ATEL Air $1,000 for the signage grant. There was $10,000 budgeted for 2025, but due to some projects being completed this year from the previous 2024 intake, we will be a little bit over budget with the 2025 projects totaling $7,366.48. So it'll be just over $2,500 over budget, and that'll just hit the bottom line.
Questions, comments? Deputy Mayor?
No, I don't think so, because I don't want to complicate the discussion about how we went over budget. But it was more because of when the projects were recognized versus when the budget was approved. But I think what we want to do is make a note for 2026 budget to revisit the funding and carry through, and when projects are getting done versus when we pay and all that good stuff.
Very good.
There was a little
Yeah.
bit of confusion.
It's
at
a
our
small amount. And it's
Yeah,
just back
it's
and forth.
significant,
Carry
and overall, we're not really over budget.
Yeah.
It's just when we were paying for
it.
the
Okay.
project, so.
Very good. So I have a resolution, the council has Dundas approve the commercial building improvement applications as recommended by the South Dundas Community Improvement Plan Committee. Seaway Speech, 4,500. Williamsburg Pump, 1,916, and facade improvement at ATEL are $1,000. Moved by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. 10B, CAO 2025-04, Health and Water Safety Streams, CEO Dahan.
Thank you. So I'll be pretty brief on this one, but ultimately what we're looking for is just to make sure council is in support of what we are proposing for the health and safety water stream funding application to the province. And essentially what we're looking at is a pretty aggressive and I think exciting project for the east half of Morrisburg. The proposal is to go ahead and look at a full underground and above ground infrastructure renewal, essentially from Farlinger all the way to Laurier, and then from 5th Street to south right to Park Avenue. We're looking at a combination of full replacement of underground, and if we have some good above ground, some opportunities for lining and trenchless technologies as well. We've started to go through, the team has started to go through some preliminary reviews of the infrastructure. So we do have a relatively high level, but I guess ballparking estimate of what this type of work would cost us. So we're feeling pretty confident in our costing. We feel pretty good as well as a team that this is a project that fits very well and aligns with the outcomes of that funding. We've got some pretty sad infrastructure in that area. It's all of the same age. Again, coming back to this idea of the seaway and this infrastructure being of all the same age. So we think we can make a compelling argument why this fits into what they're looking for and improves stormwater management capacity and capability, and improves capacity at our water and wastewater treatment facilities by removing infiltration, improving and eliminating water breaks and all those good things. I do want to mention as well that very quickly that it's Victoria Park Crescent is also included. We're calling it the East End, but we've identified through some of the challenges we've had that's an area that also needs some serious attention very, very soon. So we wanted to include that as part of the East End. The other part too that I want to point out to council is this is a great way to be able to do a pretty significant amount of work. What we're going to be proposing in our funding application from a scheduling perspective is Hopefully, we can get to design in the fall, tender by winter of 2026. So give a significant amount of time for a consultant to get through the design of all this. And we see this as one big project that a company would have, to one big contractor, 2 years to do. So, and if they can do it in 1 year, fantastic. If they can't, like, they have 2 years to do it. But essentially put that whole end of town under construction for a 2-year period, or be prepared for that. Kind of get it done with and move on, and kind of replicate that type of process for the rest of the community. So with that, I guess we're looking really for council's support.
Yeah, 2 questions quickly. When's the deadline application date? And do we know when I know funding announcements get changed all the time,
I
but
believe it's end of June.
end of June?
Yeah.
And then funding announcement in the fall. It's for the fall, okay. So just thinking of that, so we do have AMO, potential delegation conversations with ministers.
Right.
Yeah, with an opportunity for the council team or anybody that's at AMO, and then any minister in between for sharing our story. Yeah, Councilor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. So just one question about one of the sections of the report. It says the disadvantage of this approach is that the water, sewer, and road capital works funding will be dedicated to this one specific area over the next several years, and council will be challenged to allocate major work in any rural areas. So I guess if we're applying for the funding and we get it, how, and I understand the stacking, but why would we stop doing rural roads?
So we don't have to. I guess we're kind of looking ahead and trying to make sure council's aware, like what we see to be able to do this project with minimal financial impact is using our funding that we get and applying it to the infrastructure here. And that funding right now is used specifically for rural road paving and has been for the last little while. So if we move it into this area to help fund this work, we're short $1 million to continue the rural road work that we do right now.
So just to follow up, it would just be for 27 and 28 that we would lack rural road paving.
So if we got the funding to the 73%, we would be looking at requiring about $3 million worth of funding to fund our portion. I'm saying this right? We need about $3 million, so it actually is 3 years of funding.
So it's 3 years, okay. I
Yeah.
just wanted to understand that.
We would be allocating because the village streets would be completed.
Correct. No,
Right.
I don't disagree,
Yeah,
just for
yeah.
everyone
So
to
that would be
understand.
that's the continued trade-off when we've been talking about village streets as well, so yeah. Yeah. Councilor Vito?
Through you, Mayor, a question on your timing. Can you, did you say our planning or design would be completed by this fall is what we're going to submit?
No, I see that, like, it's quite a significant design effort for this because of all the streets and all the underground infrastructure. So it would be I would hope that we could be in a position to tender, so design would start as soon as we get funding announcement.
Okay.
Be in position to tender by winter of 2026. So kind of coming into budget of 2027, we have a contractor lined up and some actual numbers for budgeting purposes.
Okay, yeah, my question was going to be that, are we going to be paying for design and before we got funding announcement? You know what I
No.
mean? But, so you won't start any work until all right.
Yeah, we've done the work internally to determine the dollar amount. Yeah. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. And actually, that kind of gives the point I was going to ask or maybe say. We already started some of that preliminary work with our capacity study, correct? So we'll know our sanitary, we'll know our water main right off the bat because they're getting sizes, inverts, flows, all that good stuff. So it's a lot of that preliminary work that sometimes takes quite a while will already be in hand, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And it'd also give us an opportunity to even upsize some of the piping in that area for future growth or wherever it might be that, right now, some of them sewer pipes or water lines are 6-inch and the sewer lines are 8-inch. Maybe it'll have an opportunity to upscale, like if it need be to put a sewer pipe at 10 or 12 inch.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
and you have the history of where we've had issues, like on Park Street, we've had issues, right?
Right.
Certain areas we've had issues, so.
So just a follow-up, in your opinion, would that give us a little bit of an advantage then because that preliminary work's already been completed and we already have an investment in a project? Or we're hoping it does?
I think what the advantage it gives us is we can tell a really good story in terms of, kind of the assets that we have, the condition it's in, and the need, and how fixing these assets will actually help us with future growth, help us with resiliency, help us from a stormwater management perspective. So I do think it plays very well into the application.
Yeah, the good part is if we know, coming to the 2026 budget, we can start thinking about our reserves and how we spend the money for going forward. Yep. All on the approval of the said money yeah, that's right. But hopefully this is the first intake, the health and safety side. If maybe there'll be a second one or third one, right? Because they've been focusing on new housing growth, and this is for health and safety reasons. Okay, very good. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, CEO Don. This is great work. I have motion resolved that Council of South Dundas support the health and safety water stream funding application for the East Morrisburg Water and Sewer Renewal Project, and that EV Engineering be engaged on an hourly as needed basis to provide technical support to staff in completing the application. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. 10C TS 2025-06 RFQ number TS 2503, single axle diesel cab and chassis. Director Hyman.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this topic is obviously not as exciting as everything else that's been discussed tonight. However, here we go. So during a regular council meeting on April 9th, I presented to council for pre-budget approval for a new cab and chassis to replace unit number 79, which is a single axle plow truck. Staff continues to review the condition of our plow trucks and has confirmed that unit 79 should be replaced before unit 76. Both of them are scheduled for replacement in next year's 2026 budget. So within that report, I presented the following process for the replacement of this unit. So part one would be to purchase a setback single axle cab and chassis, and then to reutilize the existing plow harness on unit number 84, which is presently not on the road because it did not pass emissions. So it's sitting there. The plow harness is still in great shape. So what's going to happen with that plow harness is it will be sandblasted, painted. New pumps will be installed, hoses, bearings to existing plow harness, and install a new cross table chain, conveyor, and spinner. This will then be installed on the new single axle. This tender was issued through Canoe Procurement with 2 companies submitting pricing. So the net cost to the municipality will be $178,414. This money will be taken from fleet reserves so that we can get the process moving. If we order the truck tomorrow, we could see it on the ground by July in our hands. At that point, we'll then put a pause on it because it'll be taken to Mattawa. Our old truck will be taken to Mattawa so that the harness can be removed and all the refurbishing done to it with an installation in 2026 for that duration of the $95,000 for the plow harness to be installed on the unit. And that will be budgeted for in the 2026 budget. The only cost that's not included in this is the float charge to take the truck from here to Mattawa to have it dropped off. So I can answer any questions which you may have at this time.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. What was the budget?
Sorry, through you, Mayor Broad, 300,000 was the budget at the time for the fleet replacement of this unit.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so we add in the possible fleet charge. We're close to it, but we're certainly not over. Yep. Councillor Smith?
Yeah, so through you, Mayor, so this truck was originally supposed to come next year, but we need it for this fall for this plowing season because the old truck did not pass emissions, correct?
Through you, Mayor Broad. So no. So right now I asked you for pre-budget approval to get the process going because of delivery times are so not, I don't know what the word is. It's
Not reliable.
Not reliable. There we go. So because, and there's that famous word of tariffs right now. So with ordering this, we're missing the tariffs. So there's no additional cost. So let's get the truck in. Originally, I wanted it delivered for November, which would then allow Gincor to do their side of things and still be a 2026 delivery. This way, we're taking the money out of fleet reserves to pay for it, have the harness installed in 2026 with the payment coming for that side of it in 2026. So when we then receive delivery at the same time, it'll be January, February, that we'll still receive delivery of the new plow unit.
Okay. I just was thinking like,
Sure,
this
understood.
is gonna be the second truck that we're getting this year, and
It won't get into service till 2026, but
Right,
we'll
okay, yeah.
just get it pre-bought so that we have it
Right,
pre-tariff, and
Yeah.
if there's any issues in delay or in, the delivery, then
yeah.
we're still ahead of the game.
yeah, okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Director Hyman. I have a motion that council municipality accept report TS 2506 to award the tender for the purchase of one setback single axle diesel cabin chassis to Rush Truck Centers of Canada, Kentville, in the amount of $175,314.60 plus HST. And the clerk and director of transportation be authorized to sign all necessary documents to give effect to the contract. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Okay, moving to 10D, CS 2025-13, road allowance purchase update, Haynes Road. Clerk LeBrun.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. I'm here to present the report tonight regarding the Haynes Road road allowance, which council previously declared a surplus back in February. The subject property is an extension of Haynes Road that continues south across Lakeshore Drive to the water, and it's and this waterfront property has, this property has direct access to the water. On February 5th, council declared this portion surplus and directed staff to proceed with the disposal. It's important to note that when staff consulted with fire and emergency services, water and wastewater services, transportation, and the drainage superintendent, and there were no operational concerns identified regarding the disposal of this road allowance. Council made an exception to our disposition or disposal of land policy 1-10, which would normally encourage the preservation of road allowances leading to the water. However, the decision to declare it surplus was based on proximity of other public water access points in the area, the waterfront parks in the area, I should say, the limited usability of that particular access point, and the benefit of transferring the maintenance responsibility to the adjacent property owner. And of course, the addition of property to the tax roll. So following procedure, we did notify the public that the piece of road allowance was going to be discussed at council. There was a bit of a miscommunication. The meeting was set for May 21st, but in the meantime, we had changed our meeting dates, and I actually failed to notify the property owners. So I did hand deliver some letters last week, just clarifying that it would be discussed at this meeting. We did receive one written submission opposing the sale that is attached to the agenda package. And I received a phone call and a walk-in, both supportive of the sale of the road allowance. And since the last meeting, the 21st, I have been in communication with one other property owner, but I haven't received anything concrete in writing. But I assured them that if they were to submit something, that I would share that with you when we bring it back, likely in July. So typically our policy right now contains some conflicting provisions. So the reason why I'm here tonight is asking for some direction for council. Generally, property that is declared surplus, we would require at least one appraisal. However, there is an exemption in our policy that highways, road allowances, if sold to the owner of the abutting land, are exempt from an appraisal. However, so typical rural road allowances would would have a minimal value if sold to an adjacent property owner. However, this waterfront property may have significant increased value. So it's our recommendation that we obtain a formal appraisal to ensure that we receive a fair market value rather than a nominal fee. So the direction I'm looking for tonight is approval from council to obtain a formal appraisal by a qualified appraiser, and to use that appraisal price to establish a purchasing price. If council feels that this should be treated as a typical road allowance, you can certainly defeat the resolution, and we would just proceed with the disposal for a nominal fee and associated costs as per our standard practice. Just one more thing to note, staff, we have been approached by another property owner in Mariahtown requesting the purchase of a road allowance leading to the water. So our recommendation is whatever approach we take this evening, we use for any future requests for road allowances specifically leading to the water. So with that, looking for council's direction and happy to answer any questions you might have.
So looking for direction whether to get an appraisal or sell as if it was not on the waterfront. Councillor Smith?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad, I'm considering the location. I think it's a good idea to get an appraisal. I know it's going to cost us some money, but in theory, you would hopefully make that money back. I guess that's the theory. So yes.
Yeah, same here. I think just to go back here, some of your points you made in your report is bang on about water access. I was looking up where Loyalist Park was and where Duncan Park is, all within a kilometer of this area. So I don't think water access is an issue, and I think we've had many discussions about right-of-ways and where we think we should keep them and not keep them. I think this is one that definitely we shouldn't keep, but I don't think there's really a value to us to keep them. But yeah, I would agree. I think we should do an assessment as well.
You're good, Councillor Ward? Okay, so direction is to get the appraisal and continue down the sale option.
I just want to acknowledge the property owners in the audience tonight. So just for clarification, so the next process is we'll get the appraisal, we'll come up with a purchase price, and then that bylaw and report will come likely at the July meeting for finalization.
Finalization. Very good.
Now, I'm on the fence a little bit here, but if the appraisal comes in and we're like, okay, wait a minute here, we want to dispose of the land, but it comes in kind of silly crazy. Could we make a decision on the value of the land?
Yes, through you, Mayor Broad, it is up to council to determine the sale price.
Okay.
So I guess a point of clarification is when I do bring it back, we'll have our recommendation, and if that is something that council wants to negotiate, then we would consider that.
And how quick are we going to get this done? I'm sure Mr. Dino would like to proceed here with building and whatnot, so I don't want to drag this on too much.
I think we could probably have it back, like I said, for the July meeting, based on our appraiser's timeline, but typically it's
quick.
It's quick.
Okay, thank you. Sorry if I missed that.
That's good. So I have a motion to resolve that the Council of South Dundas direct staff to obtain a formal appraisal from the qualified appraiser registered with the Appraisal Institute of Canada for the disposal of portion of PIN 66129005 Haynes Road allowance previously declared surplus, and that the appraisal be used to establish a purchase price of the property. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. Mr. Colvino for the return. Okay, moving to 10E, PF 2025-13, Mesh Evo Parks, Recreation and Facilities. Director Jansen.
So good evening, Mayor and Council. So in front of you tonight is a report I'm kind of excited about myself, but so if you'll remember in the transportation budget this year, Council approved the road patrol software to modernize some of our road patrols that we do. I may have been on the sales call with Director Hyman, and I became very interested in how the software could be used in the Parks and Recreation world. Started reaching out to some of our colleagues throughout STNG. Director Hyman was getting his, he was going the road patrol direction because that's what South Glengarry is doing. I know some of the South Glengarry Parks team are already looking at rolling some of this into their operations. And additionally, I did go to North Dundas, and we did some further sale calls altogether, and I know North Dundas is starting to explore something like this as well. Obviously, it's an unbudgeted purchase. I did have a list of positives for the municipality in there. I will say Clerk LeBrun had me stop at I. I think I could have made it all the way to RRT. She said I was probably good, but a highlight of a few of them. One I'm excited about is replacing the logbooks. We spend quite a bit of money actually on logbooks every year. There's a lot of regulations, and surprisingly logbooks, you know, they can kind of charge what they want. So we can digitalize a lot of our logbooks in this way, and also improve some of the logbooks that we don't do so well. There's a couple of them that we could improve our processes on, so this will help us there. So I'm excited to see, you know, I probably spend about $1,000 a year alone on logbooks. So, so there's some savings there. The recurring work, I know all of us, doesn't matter what your job is, there's a lot of repetition to what you do. So I'm excited to sort of build the work platform, and, you know, something like the splash pad gets turned on this Friday, you know, we'd make that work order and set a reminder that in 12 months, that work order is going to be recreated. So I'm hoping that that's where we're really going to see the efficiency gain. Ultimately, you know, the biggest investment that we make here is staff, and anything that I can do to improve that efficiency, whether it's 1%, 2%, has a huge cost value to it, because, you know, we spend a lot of money on staffing. So a 2% efficiency gain has a financial value that's quite a bit. The other one I'm quite excited for is I'm excited.
Was he this excited in the earlier conversation?
Yeah. We do have a lot of attrition coming up and the onboarding capabilities of this. There's a lot of training and stuff that I think we'll improve on, and then the data that we'll collect as well. That does bring me to the more less exciting part, which is that it is unbudgeted this year. So I am coming here looking for council's approval to spend a little bit of unbudgeted funds. With Director Hyman purchasing it this year, the company has waived the implementation fee, or you could argue we have already paid it once this year. But if we deferred it till next year, we would have to pay the implementation fee again. And then long-term, with us getting more users on, there's the synergies amongst the organization as a whole, but also it would reduce our costs as we'd be a bigger volume.
Yeah, no, I love having the apps and the electronic databases for all the records, which is great. And we've been doing that with the water, wastewater, and obviously the roads department now. So I know we've been saving money in other departments and in yours as well over the years. So it's a small amount, but I'm supportive of it. Anybody else, questions or comments? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, no, the only comment I'm gonna make is later when I get home, I'm gonna watch this back on YouTube at like half the speed because I'm trying to catch up. He's excited.
You're like,
yeah, no, I think the tool's fine. I mean, I have no problem with it. It's not a big budget item, and if the tool helps us and saves 2% of his overall rec budget, that'd be great.
perfect. Councillor Smith?
Yeah, just going into like all the record keeping and stuff, is there a way that you could, like, small things that are broken for the public to have like an access point on this? Like, for instance, like there's a broken bleacher at a ball diamond, or is that a can of worms that you would want to open up?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, another discussion that this is also opened up is we already do have a complaint software, which we pay for. This app actually has complaint software, and with the roads department and myself using it, we're already starting to have the conversation around, should we be paying for that complaint software, or should we be rolling it more into the system that we already have? Obviously, let's get it rolled out for our operations and then start looking at how we can even further optimize. So maybe we're changing our complaint system next year. I'll admit, while I was on the sales call with him, he was trying to sell me the add-on for a web browser that, you know, they can make the work order, and then but I didn't get the add-on quite yet. But there's a lot of room for growth here.
Excellent. Very good. So sounds like you have support. So I have a motion to resolve that Council of Dundas approve the purchase of additional licensing with Mesh Evo for Parks and Recreation Facilities Department for a total of $4,584.72 plus HST in 2025. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Smith. All in favor? Carried. Continuing along, PF 2024-14 beach increased usage, 2025 capital project updates. Director Jansen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So less exciting report. Obviously, we've had great discussions here, both in November and March, with regards to beach usage and, our plans moving forward. I know the waterfront committees have been, still actively getting updates, and I've been getting feedback from them throughout this process as well. We didn't manage to hire any beach attendants for kind of our user pay sort of system that we're going to. So included in this report, I have put a little bit of the short term. We still have some short term plans. So, I've outlined some of the staffing hopes that we have for this summer. We're still working on some signage. I'll admit the draft made it into my email last Thursday. I haven't had a chance to really nitpick it and stuff like that. And the waste receptacles. So we're still making some short term gains here. And so with the short term plan of the beach attendant not working, we're going to go to a little bit more of a long term thought. And as council might remember, in 2023, we did have some discussion with regards to the Mooresburg Waterfront Committee and trying to put in some, parking upgrades. And over the last, I think, 5 years, even the Iroquois Waterfront Committee is trying to come up with different solutions for not so much their parking lot, but controlling where the overflow parking goes. So I feel like, maybe if we just pivot that money and go more into a little bit more of a long-term solution this year, my hope is that, if I can come in as the prime consultant, maybe even convince the roads department to dig the test pits for the geotechnical engineer. We can get that cost savings in that consulting costs way down. We'll dig our own test pits. We'll do things like that. So I'm hoping that we can try and get a design together. And then later, once that's done in the fall, we can start building a business plan. Obviously, parking fees is a little bit more, when are we charging the parking fees? How many spots do we have? What type of utilization, filled, not filled, are we looking at? What type of fee? You can actually pretty quickly come up with a, what's an estimated revenue? What's the cost of this project? Start building a business plan and go from there. And, at the end of the day, it's a different type of fee, but I think even at the Waterfront Joint Committee, there's a lot of talk about, parking limits, turnover, and just increasing turnover would help with some of our overcrowding problems and stuff like that. So it's just a different tool in our toolbox. So that's sort of the long-term vision. And so the request in here is just to reallocate the funds that we had to sort of the project I just described.
Thank you, Director. Unfortunately, we kind of couldn't move forward with the plans we earlier discussed, but that being said, we did take lots of comments and letters to the editor. So at this point, to continue to collect data is also a good thing. So that'll be good. So it'll be one interesting thing for you to collect, Director, just usage and what's happening with some of the inefficiency we had found over the last couple summers. Director Ward?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So first things first, I think, is thank you for bringing this up to begin with and taking on the challenge. It is a big challenge. So thank you for reworking it when the challenge was too challenging this year. So I appreciate that. One of the things I just wanted to mention, Mayor, really quickly is, and I've heard this from both the Waterfront Committee and the user groups of the waterfront, is that we really need to consider when you're looking at this, and maybe you already are, but I'm just mentioning it publicly, that it would be good to have some sort of crosswalk. I'm sure everyone knows, Earl Baker Park is on the north side, and then ball fields are on the south side, and every Monday night when Rhett plays baseball, there are kids running around. So anyways, just something please consider. I would really appreciate if we could look into that, because we're putting some in Iroquois. I'd love to see one in Mooresburg as well.
And so through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd love to give a good old shout out to Mr. Burton did approach me, and I know 100 Women is coming, and this was a project on his radar, so it wouldn't surprise me if this project might be going, a project to that nature might be going to 100 Women, and I just wanted to give a good shout out to Mr. Burton, always thinking of the waterfront.
Very good. Any other questions or comments this time? Councillor Smith?
Yeah, I think I said the last time we were talking about this, we just really need to try and keep this simple, like just to sign up with a QR code on something, scan and then pay for parking, like just try and keep it as simple as possible. I know that we're going to police it somehow. And I think, if you're a local resident, you don't have to pay to park. It's if you're not from South Dundas, then you have to pay. And I don't know how exactly that's going to work, but just try and keep it simple.
Very good. Yep. Okay. I have a motion letter resolved that the Council of South Dundas direct staff to reallocate the remaining funds from the beach upgrades and control measures project to collect user data, complete investigations, and commence preliminary design work for a long-term parking solution at the Mooresburg and Iroquois Beach and waterfronts. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. G, PF 2025-15 Iroquois Plaza Parking Lot and Infrastructure Rehabilitation Tender Award. Director Jansen, are we just reading the motion? Is there a further conversation from earlier, or do we just need to have the motion passed? So I'm just wondering if, Councillor Smith?
Yeah, I just actually did have one question on this, might be for Director Villeneuve. Are we going to be repaving the Iroquois parking lot before we do all the sewer relining work?
So, yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, based on the schedules that were proposed by the, within the tender, I did put Apple Fest as was my critical item, so you either had to complete it before or after Apple Fest. I will reach out to the sewer relining company, see if they have some flexibility and can do it at the same time as the construction. But Director or Manager Villeneuve and I have reviewed, so they would be happening at different times. Obviously, it doesn't come without risk, but we are pretty confident that they'd be able to do most of the relining without affecting anything else, just because even if they need a test hole, there's enough spots outside of the paving zones, especially on the sewer relining where, it starts in a roadway, so you can sort of dig up that roadway, and if there is a patch, you got to do that there for your terminations and your starts and stuff like that. So a perfect world, yes, I'd love to have them at the same time, but contractor availability is basically a bigger priority.
Yeah, because I'd hate to see us have to rip up a section of brand new asphalt just because something unexpected came up. That's why I was asking the question.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, just a quick question. So when do we think we'll be in a position to talk about the boring and the boring options and rates is what I was trying to finish saying.
Through you, Mayor Broad, well, I guess we can, once the project begins and we know, I guess, the end time of the project, we can come back with options then. We did put a few options in here based on the current rates. I don't anticipate them changing much from now until then. So any time really to discuss whether it's financed externally, financed internally through reserves, other reserves.
So follow up, so how do we finance it? Because you typically, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong on your contracts, but typically a contractor will submit monthly PPCs, progress payments. So how are we financing that, or is this all being paid at the end, or how's your contracts typically work?
So through you, Mayor, I would imagine either way, whether it's through progress payments or a payment at the end, we would finance it internally until the end and decide.
Okay, perfect. You answered that question. Thank you.
Very good. So I have a motion, let it resolve that South Dundas award tender PRF 2504 for the Iroquois Plaza parking lot and infrastructure rehabilitation to D-Rock Paving in the amount of $819,637.85, and the clerk and director of Parks and Recreation Facilities be authorized to execute control. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. And PF 2025 Iroquois Plaza Storm and Sewer Relining Tender Award. PF 2507, Director Jansen. Or it's the same, right? It's the same conversation. So I have a motion. Any conversation, questions? Councillor Smith?
Yeah, just a quick one on the storm relining. Is there any storm lines that are going to be under the new proposed green space area, or is everything still going to be in a parking lot?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, everything will still be in the parking lot.
It is, okay.
I have a motion, let it resolve that Council of Dundas award tender PRF 2507 for the Iroquois Plaza Storm and Sewer Relining Project to Capital Sewer Services in the amount of $338,828 plus HST, and the clerk and director of Parks and Recreation and Facilities be authorized to execute the contract. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Okay, boards and committees. I'll start off with Councillor Smith, South Nation.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So there was the last South Nation meeting, a couple of highlights. The registration's open for the youth fish camps. There are a couple in our area. One is at Cass Bridge and the other one is going to be in Cardinal, on the waterfront in Cardinal. I actually have two of my children who are attending the one at Cass Bridge. They renewed the agreement with Scouts Canada to look after Camp Sheldrick, which is in North Dundas, which is just north of Winchester Springs, located on Nesbitt Road. So they every 5 years they have to renew a contract with Scouts Canada. They've been looking after South Nation has been looking after that area since back in the 80s. It's been quite a while they've been looking after that, and South Nation is currently working on a new website, and I saw the preliminary new website that they have, and it's going to be much easier to navigate than what their old one was. So everybody's excited to see that. So it was a pretty quick meeting. So that was kind of the highlights from that.
Very good, thank you, Councillor. Morrisburg Waterfront, Councillor Vina.
Yep, so we had a meeting on the 20th, and Director Jansen, if I miss anything, I'll turn to you. So we talked a little bit about our Earl Baker Park multi-use pad fundraising working group. So we have had a little bit of a hiatus since our pancake flipping at the Easter egg hunt, and we're coming back with our next event is going to be a pair of golf tournaments. It's looking like for the Wednesday, so the ladies' night, the Wednesday before To Be Weekend, and the Thursday. So we're going to be running hopefully a ladies' bulleye and a men's bulleye, which is exciting. It sounds. I know there's we've never run a ladies' night like that before in the town, so I hear lots of excitement about that. Our soccer nets, like I've updated before, they're here in our facility actually, and once it all dries up and the grass kind of slows down a little bit, we're gonna install those here shortly. I think before July 1st. I think we said, David. Yeah. We just talked about the overcrowding control measures on director's last report. Our accessibility mats. So we've talked about it in the past. We purchased accessibility mats for the Morrisburg Beach and an accessible chair to get to the water. That has all arrived. I believe the chair was on display at the trade show. The chair will be kept at the lending library, and it will be treated very much the same as everything else that's there. So that's exciting. We do have we plan to do like a reveal, but we haven't set a date on that one yet. We're waiting for the infrastructure to be put in at the beach, like all the cubes and the docks and all that kind of stuff. Picnic tables, we had an update from Director Jansen. The high school has been building picnic. We're up to 5 now. So we're up to 5 picnic tables that the high school has built for us. We're supplying the materials, and they're supplying the labor in the school, so which is a great partnership. And I think, how many are we hoping to get out of that? Do we have a number, Director? 10? All right, so we're halfway there, so it's great. Our cigarette butt receptacles, we were working on that. Done now. Okay, so I'm getting updates live here, which is great. The main thing that we talked about too was our events and dates for this year. So June 21st, we'll be doing an outdoor movie as we did last year, along with July 19th. And then our bonfire is scheduled for January 10th that we did this past year, and our New Year's Bash on the 31st, of course. So we did have some cenotaph updates, and then I went to a meeting the night after with MP Duncan. So that project is rolling along now that the federal election is all over with and whatnot, that he's back on that one big time. So we're currently, the design is more or less completed, and MP Duncan is currently working with to get suppliers to do all the work. This is a very large project compared to the ones that he's done in the past, but he's working hard at it. And our next meeting is on June 17th.
Great, looking forward to buying some bricks.
Yes, oh yes, there will be a brick campaign for that, thank you.
SCG Council meeting last week on the Tuesday. So at the county level, we recognized the outgoing Director of Transportation of 16 years, Ben DeHaan, and we'll be welcoming our new Director of Transportation, Cameron Harper, who has been hired, and he'll be moving back to the area, and he'll start in August. As well as quite a few items and reports we went through. SDG Reads has been announced, so we have an exciting author coming in the fall. We selected our budget meeting dates for December the 2nd. We also did some work on our personnel policy and equity, diversity, inclusion framework. We also are going to engage with some consulting services to help us with some of the projects that we're trying to execute at the county level. And we also had a special meeting yesterday morning, and we approved a $1.5 million loan, interest-free loan to the Maxville Manor to continue with their projects to get that built as government funding and regulations continue to change. And I'm advocating, talked to the CEO today, Adams, about getting in front of the Minister of Long-Term Care Homes and, on behalf of the Dundas Manor, Maxwell Manor, have some conversations about some of the funding that's been happening in that area. So more to come on that, but we did approve a $1.5 million interest-free loan at the county level. With that being said, Iroquois Waterfront Committee update?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Brad. So we had a meeting last week. The main subject was lighting again. We had our meeting last week. Main subject we talked about was the additional lighting that Mr. Ross has designed, and we'll be working with Director Jansen on pulling a tender contract together and getting them built. One of the things it was kind of fascinating, and every time he comes to this meeting, he's quite a innovator, because what he was telling us was at the end of the runways, you're not supposed to have any type of lighting, because if a plane lands and it's an overrun, then obviously there's some obstructions that a plane could hit. But if you design a light of a certain height and a breakable pole, then that is acceptable to have installed at the end of the runway. So he designed his own lighting system. He used the same type of lighting that we've used all along the waterfront. He's used a 7-foot PVC conduit for the actual pole. And as a matter of fact, the light sits perfectly on it, and it sits perfectly on the template that he sets the concrete on. To make it break away, you know how most lighting, maybe I'm getting a little technical here, but most lights, where you do the electrical, there's a little bit of a door that you unscrew about 2 or 3 feet above ground, and then that's where you do your wires. So he's created his own little bit of opening that would creates the break in the pole if something hits it. So it was quite, see, Don, you're fascinated by this, but it was quite fascinating. So he's really passionate, and he had light samples. So we were actually at the campground building when we were looking at this light, and he actually plugged it in, and we were testing, the illumination. He was testing the spillover and so trying to set it to the proper, because they're lower, and you're walking, you don't want that bright light in your face, and then you keep walking. And that's what was kind of happening to us, was with the angle he had it at, it created them little white lights you see in your eyeballs when you walk, so then we kind of adjusted the luminaire to cast the light, but not cast it directly in somebody's eyes. So it was quite fascinating. The other thing we talked about, and if you can imagine, I know Councillor Vino will appreciate this. So at the Iroquois Marina, where the overflow for the parking is on kind of the north side, there's that pathway that kind of cuts through the middle. So he would like to get that, we would like at the committee level, would like to get that pathway kind of sent over more to the east along the back of the, the hangars, right? So things like that are in the works. So moving forward with that, there's a couple reports here on grass cutting and security cameras that David, our Director Jansen, will present here shortly. And we're doing some more plantings. I think it's scheduled for 7th, 8th weekend. The 10th. Yeah, it's coming up. I thought it was on the weekend, but whether it's the weekend or the Tuesday night, I know it keeps. Yeah, on the 8th. So we're getting some planting on the 8th, on the Sunday, that we're going to do some additional plantings there. So yeah, things are moving forward.
Excellent. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And you thought Director Jansen was excited about his presentation. He didn't win the Order of Canada for nothing, I guess, right? He got the video signal back from the space station, so. Moving along, stay with you, Deputy Mayor, or, sorry, we'll go to Councillor Ward, the Youth Working Group updates, nothing, no meeting, okay. Rural Education Committee meeting.
Yeah, so we had a quick meeting last night. The main topic, well, there was a couple topics we talked about, but one of the first topics was we have the AMO conference coming up. We wanted to get in front of the new minister to kind of introduce ourselves and tell them what our initiative is and why we formed this committee. One of the things, it's public, so it doesn't matter if I say this, one of the things we really want to bring to his attention is some of the challenges we've had in communicating directly with the school boards. I mean, it's at the provincial level, it is, we are told through the bill that we need to communicate directly with the school boards, talk about different things, school capacities, utilization of buildings and whatnot. So we're going to approach the minister and hopefully get a delegation and simply ask the question, how can we better communicate? Give us some suggestions to better communicate. How can we all get together so we can recognize some of the challenges we face in the rural area? One of the things that's very blatant is the 4 different school boards that seem to compete or competes against each other, which is not helping rural schools. So we're going to be hopefully getting in front of the minister to chit chat about that. We also talked about the rural education funding. There's a funding program that rural education, rural schools receive. So we want to dive into that and get a better understanding of how they get that funding, what do they do with that funding, and try to help promote funding to our local schools as well. So that's another thing that we talked about. And then again, the data collection, we want to try to get ahead of and be on top of the data collection again of each school, of utilization, enrollment, programming. So there's a little bit of a task ahead of us that we need to bring on. But data collecting is yet another thing that we just want to continue doing. So, yeah.
Very good. Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just quickly, I did have 2 other meetings. Mayor Border Alliance meeting today, guest speaker from the Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters of Canada. Went through a lot of statistics on where we kind of stood. Councilor Vito probably knows this. We overshipped a lot in January, February as people were trying to avoid tariffs. So we may see a slowdown in shipments coming forward. But the most important piece was they indicated to us where we can help at the provincial and federal policy updates. So continue to support liquidity. So at the province, any money they can free up for businesses or delay payments as a help. And then they had a blueprint for policy. So that'll help us when we're talking with members of parliament. And then we talked about a federal government update. And then we are meeting to the Ontario or whoever's in Ottawa for the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. We're meeting tomorrow afternoon in Ottawa, so that'll be a good chance to meet up. Which led me into another meeting the Deputy Mayor and I had and COO had with Minister Quinn last week as we continue to update him on all the activities in South Dundas to keep him abreast and so he can continue to have conversations at his level, and then we're getting ready to submit our AMO application, so we'll make sure we keep him heavily involved, and then if we get any delegations for the AMO conference in August, that'll go well. So continue on that front. Any other meetings we want to miss? Okay, seeing none. Consent agenda, 3 items, a KR, April building and bylaw stats, Canada Day carriage route rides, and property standards legal fees. I have a motion, let it resolve that all the items under the consent section of the agenda be adopted as presented. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Discussion items. Director Jansen, you're up for 2. Grass cutting and the cameras at the Iroquois waterfront.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the first item under discussion here is a recommendation from the Iroquois Waterfront Committee. As council might remember, last year we did stop mowing sort of around the airport to help with some geese deterrent. The committee has come back with another recommendation to council to add an additional area within the no-cut zone. I've outlined sort of three options here for council to sort of consider. Maybe you take a hybrid of two of them. Either we can stop cutting that zone, we can sort of stick with our current cutting regime, and then the last one I just sort of, it's a little bit of, looking and sort of goes into two. On this recommendation, I would say staff kind of recommend against this. We did a big part of it last year, and we did get a fair amount of negative feedback. I understand the reasoning behind why we stopped cutting, but we did get some negative feedback. This community takes a lot of pride in the green space at both waterfronts, so I think not cutting it is just adding to that. Also, this area it's a big open space. It promotes frisbee playing and stuff like that for anybody who's at the beach and needs a break from the sand. You can sort of go up to this space and play. And I did attach a bunch of additional information about geese. My apologies maybe, but hopefully it was some educational information in there. I will thank Chris Moran, previous member of the Mooresburg Committee, for the geese study in there. It's very thorough, and it sort of outlines that you kind of have to do a little bit of everything. And I feel like we've kind of already done the not grass cutting. So personally, I feel like we should be heading in a different direction. If we don't cut this zone, the geese are going to move to the next zone. Are we going to not cut that zone? Where do we draw the line? So I think coming from the staff recommendation is that we wouldn't move forward with this recommendation, but ultimately I do leave it up to council's decision, and the committee has come forward with this as a recommendation, but staff would continue to cut it. Outside of that, I'll let the deputy mayor, and if I missed anything that representing the committee there, but.
Okay. Questions, comments, or Deputy Mayor, like you're on the committee?
No, I mean, I listened to what the committee has said, and I've listened to what the chair, Mr. Ross, has said, but I do agree with Director Jansen on this one. I think there's a certain point where, all we're doing is chasing the geese around, and this is a waterfront. It is to be enjoyed by others. So I'm okay with whatever we're doing today. I'm okay with just moving forward with the areas that we're leaving high and the rest cutting. I don't think I'd change it.
Yeah, I definitely am against adding D, because I did get a fair bit of negative feedback whenever we stopped cutting the other stuff. In fact, I was honestly, I'm excited to go down there and take a look at it this year and see how it goes, but I was actually going to start cutting some more stuff again, just because there was a fair amount of people that walked that area and whatnot that weren't too pleased with us not cutting it. So I'm definitely not in favor of adding any more to that.
Yeah, it was hard last year because I don't fair evaluation to see what had happened and how much it looked and how high or whatever. So I think continuing with what we got and take a good evaluation would be good, maybe. Councillor Smith?
Yeah, I agree. Not adding D to the no-mow area. We are not mowing A again this year, correct? That's still going to be left long, correct? Okay. I know it's hard to tell, but is it working?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I will say in conversations with Mr. Ross, he has seen a decrease in geese on the runway. So it's hard to quantify, obviously, and there's nobody out there counting geese, but from his perspective, and he's down there at the airport quite frequently, he's seen a decrease, so.
So that's good. Okay. So status quo for now, and okay. Cameras?
Yeah, so to council here, this is the second recommendation from the Iroquois Waterfront Committee. Obviously, you've had discussions in the past about this. I know the deputy mayor's let you guys know that the committee's been slowly but surely working through it. Obviously, there's lots of public feedback that we get requesting cameras, and this would be definitely a first step towards it. There's some pros and cons, and in my report, I tried to put some of the, the precedent, the prioritization, some of those items in there. Honestly, I'm kind of indifferent, and I'll leave it up to council what direction you want to go. Some of the cons being, we will have to, the clerk and I will have to work a little bit on updating some of our policies and making sure that we're in line with FIPA. The freedom of information on security cameras, I've heard some horror stories from some of our neighbors around of, getting a freedom of information request and having to go through 2 weeks of video to try and find the 2 minutes that they're requesting. It's not the greatest use of staff time. And then, also just making sure that we're made in all the regulations in there. The system that Mr. Ross has proposed, obviously the pricing on the fancy system or the what I would call the more modern system installed by a third party, it's quite expensive. Obviously, as the deputy mayor has noted, Mr. Ross, quite innovative. But we would end up with sort of a bit more of a closed system that, eventually would become our responsibility to manage. So I do worry a little bit about some of that stuff, but ultimately he is looking to donate, and, it would be a great asset to us, but looking for some feedback on council if they want to move forward with the program or continue to look into different options, so.
Yeah, I think for myself, last year when we had the incident at the Morrisburg waterfront, there was quite a lot of feedback that maybe we should have some cameras. So I'd like us to at least study and implement something to see how, like you said, there are going to be controls in place and policy updates to look at. So I'd like us to just move ahead with this project. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. Yeah, and I think the, going through the footage, I think we gotta be careful about that. I mean, we're not gonna go through it every time there's a single complaint or every time there's a can that gets kicked over or something. I mean, it's gotta be, okay, there's significant damage done. And I would think we wouldn't go through that anyways. I would think, would we not give that just to the authorities to go through? So,
That's where some of the policy updating work, make sure that we've documented what our plan going forward
Yeah.
is, and it's written down, so that way
Yeah.
there is no ambiguity.
okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm okay with it.
Okay. All right, there you go. Let's move ahead with that. Okay, that brings us to ratification and the end of tonight's agenda. So I have a motion, let it resolve that bylaw 2025-46, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read and passed, and open council, signed and sealed. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. Carried. And a motion to adjourn to call out the chair at 8:56 PM. Councillor Ward, Councillor Vino, all in favor? Carried. So as we bring a close our municipality council meeting for Wednesday, May the 28th. Just want to say the nicer weather is out and school is coming to an end. Children are out on the streets, so if you're out there, let's be cautious of all our walkers and bicyclists and children that are playing, enjoying all of our streets, sidewalks, and parks. With that, thank you to all the staff. Excellent agenda tonight, lots of information, details. Thanks for everybody that stayed. Thanks everybody that watched us online, and thanks to the council team for tonight's participation and excitement for some of our topics. Really appreciate it. So thank you very much. And with that, I'll say good night from South